Hello, this is Eagle Gardens 1 on Instagram. This is fucking Talking Shit with Eagle, episode number 47, or what I like to call my fucking favorite part of the day. How you guys doing tonight? This is a Q&A episode that Mrs. D's Nuts requested a Q&A, so that's what we're doing today. Is a Q&A episode. It will be a panel episode. Everybody will be popping in shortly. We have Mr. Smiley's Garden here with us already. Mr. Smiley, how you doing today? Tell everybody where they can find you and how you are today.
Oh man, I'm doing awesome. It's gonna be a fun show, I think, and hope so. I'm Smileys_garden on Instagram, and you can find me. I'm part of the Frugal Force. We had a foliar episode tonight, so hope everybody got to catch that. It was some pretty good info.
I know I did. It was a good episode. It was a real good episode. I had to double check to make sure I got everybody, sent everybody the numbers. Kind of like did that shit kind of last minute. Rushing today. Rushing.
Yeah, man. So what, you gonna start a foliar regimen now, Eagle, or we get you convinced? What?
Oh, you're rushing me, Smiley. You're rushing me. One thing at a time, man.
All right.
You know how they say we old fuckers are, stuck in our ways, slow to adopt new things, scared of new technology and all that good shit.
It's more one of them, if it ain't broke, don't fix it,
That might have a little bit of something to do with that. Might have something to do with that. You know what else I caught part of today was part of Mrs. Lady Jack's Greenstock show.
Oh yeah,
which I wasn't aware was on today until earlier. But yeah, I think it was on just before or like midway through your show. The Cheap Home Grows got a Lady Grower series now.
nice. Sorry, I'm bringing up
where Mrs. Lady Greenstock is on that panel, and a few other lady growers that I wasn't quite aware of, but glad to see it happening.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Heck yeah. Not one person's checked their message yet. Jeez.
Oh yeah, that's all right. Do a Q&A.
It's all good. It's all good. They'll be here. I know they will. I know they will. And I had a pretty good day. Got a little bit of work done, not as much as I had hoped. Miss Cantaloupe, how you doing? How you doing tonight? Let's run down and say hello to people in chat since we're still kind of dragging our feet a little bit here. Michigan native, cheers. Big Jar Grows, welcome. UK SIF 420, how you doing? A Nova, how you doing? Rick Reed, Seth Burton, welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight. Miss Cantaloupe, always a pleasure. Tara Wilson, staple in the community almost everywhere, I believe. She's throwing that support around. Shredder 911, thank you for joining. Modern Genetics, how you doing? I think I covered everybody thus far. So, did you do any work in the garden today?
Yeah. I got a new little compost tea brewer thing, so I was playing around with that. It's pretty fun. Got that from
Yeah,
I got that from Country Roots. So shout out to Chris and the gang over there. Did a nice job with it. So
how big a batch of that are you able to make at once?
That one's like a 12-gallon little brewer. They got a few different sizes. I think they go all the way up to like a 30-gallon. So, but I don't go straight with it. I'll mix it with water and all that. Cut it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's something someday I may get to. Someday. Someday.
Yeah.
Yeah. You never know. I tried brewing some worm castings at one time, and it worked well. I don't know why I actually quit utilizing it.
The worm castings?
Yeah, it was the Cheap Home Grow show. It was on today on their network. Tara.
Yeah, the Cheap Home Girls cool show. But I don't know, man. I don't know if it's going to be a huge benefit or a huge difference. There's good and bad with it. So it's one of them things. Look into it and see if it's right for you.
What all do you use in your brewer? What kind of stuff do you use in the cheese?
I'm pretty minimalist with it, so I look at the compost that I'm going to use, whether it's a worm casting or I'll use like that ancient forest, which is like the forest on this kind of stuff. But I kind of switch it up between different compost sources. But I look at that like the biology, and then yeah, I just put a very minimal amount of like a tablespoon of alfalfa, a tablespoon of kelp, and I usually will put in some insect grass and just a tablespoon of the fish hydrolysis. Sorry, I drew a blank there. And then I use that kind of for the food source. I don't add molasses or anything to it. Let them go.
And how often would you use that?
I don't really do it on a regular. I don't know, once a month. I don't think it's like some of these guys go once a week, and even with recharge, they're hitting once a week. But I don't know. I mean, to me, there's I guess the way I visualize it is there's a balance. They kind of talked about it in a podcast I was listening to earlier too, but these guys go real deep into it. But you can basically collapse a colony by overdoing it too. So that's kind of why I'm like, I don't want to go real crazy with it. I want to add a ton of stuff, just get the biology loose in there. And to be honest, for most people, a compost extract is going to be better than doing a aerated tea because there's less risk of develop. If you have good, then you're basically just running. You just got to find good compost. So if you start out with bad compost and an extract, you're gonna have bad biology. But you get good compost, and then you don't even have to aerate it. You can just basically, like I use thigh high or knee high pantyhose. So that's what I kind of use for the bag or whatever to put it in, and it seems to work pretty good as far as the mesh. And then yeah, you can just put it in something like that and wring it out a bunch of times. Get it wet, wring it out. You'll start to see the water turn dark color, and that's going to be your humic acids and all your shit there. So fun. Quick squish and poop.
It does not sound good.
No,
No. No. How many different are? How can you tell? How do you keep it from going anaerobic? Will it go anaerobic? Is there certain like temperature zones you need to keep it in? Stuff like that.
yeah, that's the variable when you start to actively aerate them. Your compost tea is now you're basically setting it up like an incubator. So you got to make sure you're moving enough air, getting enough air, dissolved oxygen in the water. And the reason you don't want to go real heavy with like a sugar source is you can cause a really big bloom in biology to actually consume all the oxygen in the water and cause it to go anaerobic. So that's where like whatever sugar or food source you're adding, it's the best I've heard as far as guidelines is little is a lot. More less is more, so to speak. Because some of the guys I hear online or even recipes are like 3 tablespoons of molasses in a 4-gallon batch, and it's like, that's more molasses than professional guys use in 1,000 gallons from what I've heard from them. So stuff to consider.
Just check in chat here. Heather Osborne says 3 gallons to a 10-gallon organic. As soon as I transplant them, I put them into flower. Do you think I have enough juice in the super soil to get them to the moon? I would say so, a 3 to a 10 in super soil, wouldn't you?
Sorry, what was
Mr.
that?
Smile?
I'm getting crossed up here. Miss Cantaloupe's teasing me about runs in my pantyhose. So I missed it. I totally missed it.
I think she's fine. Question was a 3-gallon to a 10-gallon in organic, such as soon as I transplant them, I put them into flower. Do you think I have enough juice in the super soil to get them to the moon? Transplanting the 3 into a 10 just before flower. I'd say she's more than fine.
Yeah, definitely.
If
If it's fresh super soil mix, yeah, I would say that's more than enough.
anything, maybe like a worm casting top feeding, maybe like week 2 or something like that, and should be good. Maybe 3.
Yeah, but it's really going to depend on what's all in that super soil too. So a lot of times they have a good amount of worm casting in it. So certain things like so my opinion on like using a compost tea is something like that where you're starting a pot of fresh soil and I mean you give it a little boost of biology to get things kind of rocking and cooking and going. But like super soil, they'll typically mix that, set it off to the side after it's gotten wet and let it do its heat cycle. So it should be already pretty well ready to go and have quite a bit in it.
Cheers, Red Setter Farm. How you doing tonight? Canna Trooper, hello, welcome tonight. Johnny Crack Seeds, JD's. There was some more questions in here for us.
Tara was asking a question about Photo Plus, but I think that was what was making her pot smell like poop, smell like farts or whatever. But I'm not sure what she was adjusting there, other than maybe going to the right dosage.
That one wasn't so much a question as an answer.
It's hard.
Not the one you just said. The question about bacteria.
Bacteria, yeah, right.
Smiley question there.
What's up, American One? How you doing, man? Pedro's running sips, yeah. Heather. Yep. They rock and roll too. That's actually the style I'm using for the grow off. So, and for a reason.
Yeah, the Canna Queen was a good episode. That shit was funny. Talking about her and Jay. Squirrel!
Yeah. I gotta get one lit up here, man. I'm
No, and I'm fucking falling behind. I'm rolling up some primal punch over here. Woody,
that sounds
East
so delicious,
Coast.
dude. The way you describe that banana just makes me drool every time.
Oh, it's so good. So, I didn't get in trouble, but man, I'm almost wondering if everybody didn't think that it was supposed to be like later on. You know what I mean? On the after show.
Oh, maybe. Said what? Said the time.
All right.
It's all right. We can read nerded out. I'll answer some hydro questions, whatever.
It's mine.
Do my best. Maybe Red Sitter will jump on. Throw the hydro.
Red Sitter's always welcome. Red Sitter's always welcome. Enjoy Red. Good dude.
Shredder's,
Good dude.
Shredder's asking about the SIPS containers, so and facultative anaerobes. So basically, facultative bacteria or anaerobes are are bacteria that can switch from being anaerobic to being aerobic, and they can operate in both. That's my basic understanding of it. And I do know they can be a range of different things. So past that, I just try to use the EM1 because I know that is supplying those for that subsystem. So I think that's kind of a critical piece, along with the grow kashi that they recommend or is recommended to run on the top there, because that's the proper biology you're wanting to get in that container. I hope that answers, man. I mean, there's a lot of shit about it that goes real deep and crazy. I could probably direct you to some like podcasts if you really want to geek out on it.
Mana Wade, any question, any advice on hempy? Before you get to that though, before you go there, Anova, you've led to a good point. They may be watching UFC 249. And if anybody else is watching UFC 249 while they're watching this, please keep me updated.
That's the Ferguson fight? Is that the one, Ferguson and Gaethje?
Yeah. I was going to fucking order it and have it like playing in the background, but I just couldn't come off that $84. So.
Yeah, that'd be a real good fight. I was looking forward to watching that one too.
And last time fucking YouTube did it. Usually you can like within a few hours get on YouTube and fucking catch, some kind of version of that shit. You know what I mean? But that McGregor fight last time, man, YouTube did a hell of a job of keeping that shit off until days later. I was bummed.
That's how they make their money, man. That's gonna be a big issue now because no live audiences. So I think their whole income on that fight was off from pay-per-view and whatever they could generate from that,
Oh, yeah, they were going to do well. Nonetheless, with no other sports going on right now.
Yeah. All the sports gambling guys are going crazy. Probably gambling on when the shit's going to end.
See, I kind of fucking shelved fucking a lot of sports for a long time. And I'm just kind of getting back into watching UFC. Because there was a long time where I just, having all girls, I just didn't have a lot of room in my life for sports. They weren't into it. I couldn't watch it. Wasn't playing at all. Or, into it at the time. So I was just like, fuck it.
Yeah. Jimmy Correct Seeds is shout out to you in chat there. He's asking about switching nutrients in the middle of a run. So this might be up more your alley, Eagle, because you change different nutrients, I know. But he's asking if you started with advanced nutrients, is it okay if you were halfway through the cycle and switch to, say, like a Dutch Pro nutrients, or should you stay with the same? Would it hurt the ladies or be any detriment?
I would, if I could, I would try to complete the run with the same line. But if it just came down to a matter of cost, and you couldn't, because I understand like Advanced is a super expensive line, and you can run out of certain elements of the line and still have a bunch of it. So sometimes it's hard to quit the whole line all at once. But if you were going to do it and they had really no choice and you're going to switch lines, I would suggest kind of flushing that system out first. Give it a couple good just pH, just straight waters, and then start a new regimen with the new nutrients at a lighter dose and kind of beef it up a little bit until they're comfortable again with the new line.
So what's going on, Charlie's? I'm just going to bring you into the conversation, Charlie. What do you think about switching nutrient line in the middle of a run? Say you started off with Advanced and you want to switch to a different line. What are your thoughts? Is that going to be a proper reverse?
Yeah, I've never had. Can you guys hear me okay, first of all?
It's a little light, but...
It's a little light? Yeah, let me see if I can fix that. Thank you, by the way. Thanks. It's an honor to be here again. Thanks, Eagle. Thanks, Smiley. You're right on, man. I saw your garden today. That thing's looking primo, man. Primo. Yeah, I've never had a problem. I've done it before. You run out of the newts that you have. You get some stuff that you have left over from before, and as long as it's still good, I've never had a problem with that. I've done it from going from General Hydro, and then I actually got it when I was working at the store. I got the RX Green Solutions, their veg A and B, and just tried it for shits and giggles. Never had a problem with it. You know, done it with the Soul Synthetic line from Roots Organic. Never had a problem with that one either. So I've just never had a problem with it myself personally. So
yeah, and I don't think it would be an issue. The times I've ever seen guys have an issue is when they mix and match in between lineups, because that's been the thing I've noticed is like it seems like all the lines are pretty well at covering the main 16 or 18 nutrients, whatever. And then you know, they'll have some of the hormone and different stuff in there, but for the most part, if it's a complete line, you're really not going to be changing a ton of what the plant's seeing. So I wouldn't see it being like a big difference unless you're trying to mix and match, because when you mix match, you may
Right.
like all those ratios are proportioned in a certain way to give you an end result when those are all mixed. Now, if one company A mixes, you know, an additive at a certain ratio and company B mixes it at twice the ratio, it may be because there's different things in that. So that's the only times I've really seen guys running a problem is where they're running like, well, the one that, for example, was running Mills for the A and B, and then he was trying to bring in the Heavy 16 Ignite or whatever the brand is. So like right at the transition to bud set, he was trying to bring in an additive, but it was causing a problem for him. So taking that out and then fixed all the shit, you know. But that would be the only thing that would be in a problem.
Yeah, I mean, I've never done it right at the beginning of flower, or you know, in veg right before they're going to go into flower. I've never done that. When I ran my my Lucas formula with the General Hydro, I'd run. I was mixing and matching there. I would do my my micro and bloom. Didn't use the veg at all, and then I would add Botanicare's CalMag Plus. On top of that, when I went into flower, you know, what else was I adding? I think that was about it. I mean, I had other general products like Floralicious Plus I would add in veg. And then on top of that, when I went into flower, I would add Advanced Newts Bud Candy, because I wanted that magnesium boost more than anything. Everybody thinks it's a sugar. It is kind of a carbo, but it's really just a magnesium booster more than anything else. And that's what I ran for years. Had great results. You know, Cool Bloom powder I was running with it, even though that was still in the General Hydro line. And then, you know, I always used the whole earth organic molasses, you know, the blackstrap. Never really had an issue.
So follow-up question kind of similar here from Alex Boychev in chat, but he's asking if, you know, if like there's a difference, one nutrient line is better than another. So he's wondering if, you know, like for example, is advanced nutrients going to be a better lineup for him than like a can of nutrient lineup? And I don't know, I'll kind of throw that one to you guys. That's not really my...
Eagles, go ahead. Eagles, go ahead, man. If you want to jump in? I mean, I could jump in on that too.
What was the question? There's a difference. Is there a difference in lines?
Yeah, like he's wondering if advanced nutrients is better than like can of nutrients, for example, or whatever. Or is there
I'm sure there's a huge difference in nutrients, and it comes with a price tag.
That's it.
I've heard great things about. I've had great things about both. I know Advance is probably your more top dollar line, and it's broken up into. The reason for that is it's broken up into so many fucking products to juice your line. Cana, I've always heard, is a super stable nutrient lineup. both are good, but is there a difference one to the other? Price tag, quality? I'm sure a little bit. It's what you can afford. Go with the best of what you can afford. If you can, afford the race car and you're happy with that, go with that.
Personally, Advanced is good. I just think they're overpriced, and you're going to have a lot of bottles. And if you're just starting out and you have the money, go for it. I just don't think that you should invest that kind of money, well, especially if you're just starting out with a lot of bottles. Keep it simple.
To confuse yourself, yeah.
Yeah.
And
right.
that was going to be my suggestion too.
Yeah. Keep it simple.
Don't overdo it, because a lot of those, in my opinion, a lot of that stuff's gimmicky anyway. The additive bottles, but until you really got experience at growing and what your nutrients doing, a lot of them additives you're not even going to notice the difference. So you know, it's a waste of money in my opinion initially, but I think it is better to go with a complete line, because you kind of followed that up with a second question. So I do think it's better to have a complete line. In my opinion, you're better off getting it in a powder form.
I was almost going to suggest that, like, if you're a starting grower, just to find a good A and B system, maybe like a Floraflex or something like that. So, then master the A and B, or maybe even a 3-part system. And then if you're not happy with whatever you're running at that, mix it up to the next step. But like we're kind of stated with Charlie, and you hit on too, don't make your first run as confusing as fucking possible, because then from there on, your answer for everything is going to be add a little more of this, add a little more of that, and then that's quickly the answer to that's quickly the recipe to a bad grow right there. It's just to keep adding, and you'll find yourself. And the guys that a lot of times, if you're not frequent or good to the people at the grocery store, they're happy to sell you whatever you're running in there. I got a green leaf. What's the matter with this? Well, I got something for that. A lot of times, if you're not frequent and you really talk with them guys, if you don't ask questions, they'll sell you anything you want to carry up to the counter if you don't ask questions.
So
I agree with that 100%.
I hope that answered. I was going to go back to, sorry, Manny, we missed a question earlier about hempy buckets. Now, I understand the concept a little bit, but I've never personally ran them, so I wouldn't be able to speak out of experience. I don't know if you guys have run a hempy bucket at all or understand.
I haven't run the hempy bucket.
So I'll describe it to you a little bit. It's all perlite to my understanding, and they basically run the plant supported, and you can fill the bucket with nutrient and then let the roots grow down into it. And then I've seen somewhere that
I kind of brought that up one night, and you guys looked at me like I was fucking nuts. I'd never heard to it as a hempy system, but I know fucking burner rolls like that, and his grows are 100% perlite.
It's definitely an old school way to go, and Scotty Rio always talks about it on the Dude Grows show. So I guess if anything, I would try to seek out somebody like him who's got some real experience using them. Because I understand it, but I really wouldn't be able to talk on what's going to be an issue for it.
Yeah, years ago, and I'm talking 15, 20 years ago, it was an ebb and flow. It was a homemade little box that I had done, probably a 5x5 or 6x6 that I built, and I ran it straight vermiculite. It's almost a little perlite in there, but that was it. And it was a wick system, so it was just an ebb and flow. And as long as your pH was on, it was, I could set it and forget it for a few days. I'd check it every 3-4 days. But I've never grown in straight perlite. I've never grown in I've done, BWC. I've run in straight hydroton, however you want to say it. Great techniques. If you're willing to, especially hydroton, if you're willing to pick up 50-pound buckets if you got to move them, if you can keep, and then you got to clean it. And that's a real pain in the ass too. After every run, if you're doing buckets, or even if you're fill a 4x4 tray with an ebb and flow. Great technique, but you're going to have to clean that stuff every time. You can't move the trays if you need to move it, or the plants. They got to stay. If you're just filling it, you know, learn that through the hard knocks. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, there's, you know, you can grow in almost anything, you know. So, but I've never done straight perlite. I can see how it works though.
So there's another question from Shredder about using CalMag and Epsom salt together. I really wouldn't see the reason to do them together because you're going to double up on your magnesium. So Epsom salt's magnesium sulfate. And so usually you're going to, I mean, a lot of guys I know are using that as opposed to a CalMag if you're trying to address a magnesium, because the calcium nitrate and magnesium nitrate actually is not exactly I guess I'm saying that wrong. Calcium is the one that everybody's kind of misnomering on that one, because the nitrate.
You know, only in the instance I would say is if you were like running CalMag on a normal regimen, and you were 100% positive your plant was it was a strain that was running mag deficient, maybe under LAD. Maybe in that instance, maybe a little bit here and there on top of the CalMag, just to you know, remedy that deficiency if it's well known. But I wouldn't, as a steady regimen, I wouldn't put them together. Just that if you could actually call out that one deficiency, if you could actually see if the plant was 100%, you know, if your CalMag was in your regimen all the time and you were seeing that strain was deficient in mag, then yeah, maybe add a little bit of Epsom salt at that time, but not both together in a steady regimen. I think that would be overkill.
Yeah, it's pretty redundant. That's the only thing I can say. I'd run one or the other. If you see one that's a heavy feeder, you run out of something, the CalMag or something, yeah, throw a little bit of Epsom salt in there. But you know, but no, even heavy feeders, the CalMag, especially the Care CalMag. I mean, I haven't used it in a few years, but it's still, if I ever saw some reason had a super heavy feeder and had to throw a little bit in there, that stuff is gold as far as I'm concerned. If you're running synthetics, you know, because you're gonna get that little bit of iron boost in there, you're gonna get a little bit of a nitrogen boost in there. That's where your plus comes from, plus your calcium, magnesium. So there's no need, you know, it's an all-in-one. That's why I think it's so good. For a synthetic, I've always found it to be very clean. So, but you don't want to be redundant on it. You know, less is more. Less is more. Less is more. That's my mantra.
So shout out to Mystic Marks here, is because I like this comment, and he likes to use Epsom as a foliar to test for the deficiency first. So basically, what he's getting at is mixing the Epsom salt. If you think you have a magnesium deficiency, mix the Epsom salt up, do a foliar spray, and you should see a noticeable change in that plant. So a lot of times it's a yellowing, I believe, is the mag deficiency. And you should see a green up from that foliar spray in an hour if you're addressing the right thing. So,
yeah, I like that answer. I did see that in there as well. That was a great answer.
Smart, very smart. Always test one plant first. Don't go spray your whole crop. That's always my little thing too. Test the plant first, and then don't want to ruin a whole crop. You know, magnesium can be, you know, Epsom salt too could be a little bit of a booster too in flowers. So, you know, there are applications, I'm sure, you know, for it. But they were just, you know, you don't want to get redundant on it. Those brown spots will tell you right away on your plant if you get a CalMag lockout, or not enough of it, rather, I should say, not lockout, but you're not getting enough of it. Keep your eye on the clawing leaf. You start getting some clawing. You know, I mean, I know nutrients can be some of the toughest things to get your head wrapped around for new growers. There's no question about it. But start out simple, and then, you know, as you get the experience, you can start triggering your plants. You can actually trigger certain things in certain cycles by adding and taking away certain products. Because you really want to get that, you know, It's the ions in that around those roots. It's gonna, you can, certainly trigger plants if you get it down correct. And you'll be amazed. You'll be amazed. But get your hands dirty and keep it simple. I mean, even the Lucas formula, all it is 2-pi, General Hydros, Micro, and Bloom. Don't even buy the grow. Follow the instructions on what they say. Throw a little bit of CalMag Plus in there, and an enzyme. You don't have to use an expensive enzyme either. Big time enzyme, or I mean, I use the SLF. The SLF 100 now. I just started using it, and I like it. It's it's the application rate, which is only 2.5 per gallon. I mean, that's like half of what everything else is suggesting that you put in. And then always start out at about a quarter of the nutrient. Whatever they tell you on the product, don't go full blast on it. Start out with a quarter of it. You can always amp it up. Always, just like in cooking, you can always take away. I mean, you can always put in, add. You can't take away. So I always look at growing just like our bodies work. Same thing. It needs everything from the humic acids to the pepsins to the enzymes. Everything's in our saliva is an enzyme. That's breaking it all down, the sugars, etc. And same thing that our digestive system does. It's basically what the plant's doing. The same thing, just in a different form. So keep it simple. Keep it simple. But always quarter. I always stress that. They want you to use their products. They want you to have to run back to the store and buy more. That's all they want. Separate you from your money. So use a quarter of the strength of what they say, and then build your way up if you see deficiencies. Because the deficiency is not going to kill the plant. If it's not about to go into flower, it's a young plant. You're going to rescue that plant. You're going to fix that before it even has a chance to that's why it's showing you signs. I need help. I need help. Give it what it needs. Add a little bit more, and it'll reward you. The plant will start talking to you once you start to get to know your plant and what they're going to do.
The Red Setter's getting blown up in questions here in chat. Red, you might as well just jump on the show. I don't know.
I shot him the numbers like 4 minutes ago. So.
Might as well just jump in here and talk. It's easier to just answer.
I wasn't even when I was guilty. I lost control of my mouse. So I was trying to fucking get it going.
Yeah, there was a question too, and chat kind of moved along, and I didn't scroll back, but there was a question about a specific like pH perfect, advanced nutrients pH perfect, and good or bad. But I would just say, a lot of that stuff, like I guess early on for me when I started growing, I thought there was kind of magic in a bottle, so to speak, right? You get these, you got to have the right additive at the right time, and there's a certain thing. But the more I learned about it, and I think you guys would probably agree with this, if I were to look back and do things differently, I would spend a majority of my money on squaring up my environment and making sure that is good and I have a quality light source. Because the nutrients, in my opinion, is further down the priority list, because those things have to be correct to even know what really, what's going to be an advantage or a disadvantage for you in a certain nutrient. And that's just my opinion on how you're going to run it or apply it. But light and environment would be where I would suggest anybody focus, I guess.
No, you're right on point with that. Environment. Your environment's going to affect your root zone. People don't take that into effect. That's why I can grow something, give you a cut of it, smiley. You're going to come up with a completely different, sometimes looking flower fruit in the end. Is your environment, your ambient environment going to affect that the plants are getting is going to affect the rhizosphere, your root zone. I'm not trying to be Mr. Doctor here or anything, but it's going to affect it. Your CO2 levels in your environment, wherever you are, could be different. Your oxygen levels can be different, and that does affect what's going on in your soil. It's all connected with the ions, again, positive and negative ions. So that's why, even in this, down the street next door, you can have a grow. Kevin Jodrich says it. He has farmers on the other side of the mountain from where he's at. his outdoor is, and they grow the same thing, but it looks completely different terpene profiles and everything, just because of, there's more wind on that side of the mountain than on his side of the mountain, more moisture on his side of the mountain than there is on the other side of the mountain, and that affects everything. It absolutely affects everything. What the plant's going to transpire and also take in through its stamens on the opposite side, the stigmatas, I believe. Get a little confused here. I'm thinking too quick. A little nervous, guys. So, but yeah, it just, the environment means everything. Your nutrients mean just as much too, but you can just follow the recipe there. Your environment is something you have to tweak. So, following instructions on a bottle, anybody can do. But getting your environment right is definitely number one.
Yeah, and to me, that's like, if you don't got that square, you're not going to notice any advantage or disadvantage between any nutrient either, whether that's organic or a chemical or whatever. You know what I mean? Because your environment affects that so much. So
Right.
I just see that a lot where everything's thought to be a deficiency, but a lot of times it's not necessarily a deficiency, and there's a low humidity, or there's a hot spot under a light, or there's just so many other things that'll play a role. So I don't know.
And the way your plants react in veg, they can take up a lot of abuse, a lot of swings. They can take a lot more abuse in veg than when you're in the flower. That's the other thing to remind people is they're going to get a real finicky, some, not all. That's why you try to start out with a strain that's easy to grow or considered easy to grow. And start out with something that's going to be easy. Don't dump. I don't know. I used to say this at the store. Don't dump a lot of money into a lot of equipment. If you've never done it before, start out small and then work your way up. If you have the space and you have that kind of money anyway, you're going to be able to, you're going to be able to expand. So start out small and then work your way up. Start with a plant, 4 plants, whatever the case, and then go from there.
Hopefully I didn't just pause the meeting. I'm sitting here still trying to work on this damn mouse. And I closed my laptop. I looked up and everything was gone. I was like, oh, shit.
I wish I could see chat. I can't see chat, guys. How can I see chat from Zoom? Didn't you show
I got it up on my phone, and then I turned the volume down. I do have it up on my computer, but I can't fit them both, I guess, side by side.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? I'll bring my laptop to work out to this place anyway next time. Yeah, because I only have my phone I'm on, so I don't want to take a chance. Last time it just froze my ugly face right on that screen.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know. I was like, oh, shit. Yeah. No. It's been a long couple days.
Well, tell us, since we're not working on another question, what some of the mug crates you got going on over there, Farmer Willen?
Yeah, we just yeah, a friend of mine and I we got another space, thankfully, and we just hung another 8 lights. We're just doing a couple of 4x4s under the Gavitas. We got Gavitas, the Superwoman, and double ended, and we're gonna we're doing just 4x4s, ebb and flow, simple, set it, forget it. We got I think it's a 3-ton mini split that we got, and that's the last thing that we have to put in. But everything else is pretty much hung and ready to go. I just some of the clones that I took the other day, I think we're gonna throw over in there. So this room here is pretty much filled. I don't know if you guys can see it, but I got everything pretty much transplanted, and then we've got another just a small 10x10 tent that we have going, and we've got a couple of the SF4000s. We got 4 of them actually in there, and I'm gonna see what we can do with those. So he's run the SF4000 Spider Farm before, and he really likes them. They're really inexpensive for the 4000. They only, we're under $6 or something on Amazon. So 4 or 6, I can't remember which. I think we're starting with 4, and then once we have our first crop, we'll go out and get a couple more. But So what I want to do though in the tent is I'm thinking anyway that I want to try digging out my old recipe for my super soil. It's somewhere. I've been trying to look for it the last couple of days, but and going with the coast of Maine. I want to try that coast of Maine, like with the Kenio that you had on from those guys from up in Maine.
Yeah, I actually use the lobster, the coast of Maine lobster compost. I use that in my soil mix.
Yeah. I've got a bag of the platinum right here that I'm gonna try a couple of plants here with, and then I think we're gonna go with the tent. We're gonna use that. We'll see though. I kind of wanted to get it going a little bit faster than waiting for that to bake 2 and 3 months. You know what I mean? So we'll see. Still kind of up in the air. Yeah.
Holy shit! Who's this guy? Holy shit!
You're gonna love it, Smiley. Guess who had a nap?
Oh man.
Yeah, freshly shaved too.
Got to go back to work, huh?
Yeah.
Back to reality.
Yeah.
That's cool though. I probably look stupid to everybody on YouTube because on here it showed you popping in, and I didn't realize it wasn't going to show on YouTube, so I went boom like this. I didn't probably look stupid. It would have looked cooler if you showed up.
Yeah, had to get stuff cracking. Like I said, I had the alarm set, and I just made fresh edibles this morning, so they knocked me out. So how's it going, everybody? How's it going, Charlie's Farm?
Good to see you, man. How you doing?
How you doing, Boom? Super glad you could make it tonight.
Yeah,
a little jealous. I swear to God, I had my fucking Slayer shirt in hand. I was gonna wear tonight, and then Boom had to fucking come show me off. God damn it! That's fucking awesome shirt too. God damn it! I knew I should have worn it. Ah well, Boom's got the Slayer covered anyway.
That's a great way north up there, treating. That's a great way north treating up there, Boom.
Oh, always a good time. Yep. Warmer weather now.
Yeah, I got in-laws in Toronto. And then I have some that are, I don't know where you are, but there's one of my wife's cousins that live way up there, you know. They said, I actually went to a wedding about a year ago, finally up in Toronto, finally went up and met them. It's only been 15 years, but
yeah.
Great
we're in
people.
The way up category over here. We're not quite north of the 60, but we're right there.
Yeah. Must be nice getting the warm weather, huh? I can imagine.
Yeah.
How's the garden doing? Nice.
Yep, just chopped her down. So taking a little bit of time for a reset. I got a couple seedlings going. I'm gonna try some new stuff. Look for some new flavors. I've picked my keeper from my last round and got rid of everything else. So on to some new stuff.
Nice. Yeah, I brought some seeds in with me today just to go through them and see what I wanted to crack for the spring.
Yeah,
hey,
what are you looking at?
You let chat pick, Charlie? Is that what you're saying?
What's that?
You let chat pick or something? Eagle had in his next seed shot.
I just caught that tonight. I caught the tail end.
That's on the download, guys. Now only one of those strains is supposed to be talked about. I'm serious. I got an email today that said, yeah, I'd like to stay ahead of the testers, and now the testers want to run wedding cake. So if you could not post any more pictures about that, because you've started a little bit of shit.
That's awesome.
He has to laugh about that though, man. He can't blame you. He just sent you 3 packs of fire, like you're not gonna crack it.
I had specific instructions to start with the GMO, but there was nothing saying you couldn't fucking throw them all down.
That's what I mean.
I,
He's got to laugh about that. That's funny though. You're excited about it. What's the, you know what I'm saying? It's a compliment, really.
I thought so. So it worked out pretty well, though. I was happy with their choice, Charlie. If you do let them run with that,
What's that? Say it again. Sorry.
letting
What's that?
Chad pick your next strain.
I did narrow it down. I will say that I narrowed it down. I know one I'm definitely gonna crack, and that's I have an archives Dosey-Don number 22. Even though it's an F2, I'm gonna crack these right here. You guys can see that.
Should be fire right there, man.
We got those right there. So yeah, we're gonna definitely crack those. And then I have you guys familiar with pH Nerd? Used to be with Ocean Grown. You know, I know Eagles. I know you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a spot and Kush here. We're definitely gonna be doing the spot and Kush. And then I have one from him too as well. That's the I have a Casey Jones. We're going to be doing a little Casey Jones. I haven't grown Casey Jones before, so we need a little sativa in there as well, definitely. And then I got the Jedi. I got so many Ocean Grown, but I'm gonna lay off Ocean Grown for a few. But even though I have one that is definitely gonna make the mix, is if I can find it right here. It's the it's Nerds, PH Nerds from Spot and Family Genetics. It's his BTY OG crossed with his Spot and Kush, and it's pretty insane. I grew it out before. It was a huge hit. I didn't take a keeper off it because they had a couple of other like Spot and crosses in there, and damn it, if you know, it's always the one that you don't take a cut from. That's been everyone's been screaming for. So, and then, you know what I'm thinking too, though, is I'm thinking GMX's his GMX Kush, which is the OG Kush times the Spot and Kush.
So what would you be looking for cracking that and the other ones if they're going to be?
I'm looking for. I want a real good Kush keeper, put it that way. I'd rather, to be honest with the GMX, I want an OG leader for sure if I can find it. I'm just an OG. I love OG, and then and I love anything that's sativa, anything at all, anything that gives me a good anxiety attack for the first 15 minutes after I smoke it. I'm down for. So,
when you say an OG Kush, you're talking like a straight fuel, a gas, and that's
yeah, maybe some earthy tones in there too. You know, it's one of the biggest requested. I mean, I still have the. Thankfully, the mice almost killed it, but I have that Hell's OG. Excuse me, years old, but it's still a huge hit. So, and I'm looking for some things that I can grow together too. That they're gonna, structure. You know, I can throw them in together. I don't have to worry about where my canopy's going to be. It's going to be generally in the same height. You know, so that's the main reason. I have indigo leaders. I mean, the primal punch, depending upon how deep in the cycle I let it go, it can be a nice heavy hitter, a nice indigo leader, that's for sure. I still have the other thing too is though I got these old Joker genetics, the old ones that came in the old files. Can you guys see that with the?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, it's been so long. No, they have been stored correctly, cool, dry, dark place. I can't remember I got to look them up, but I can't remember what the initial stand for. If anybody's out there, I was going through these tonight. This one here says JDL. I can't remember the life of me, but I haven't had a chance to go onto Instagram and look them up or DM them yet. They usually, and this one right here, I can't remember. That one right there, OG something. I just can't remember. OG. I don't know. I can't even make out the last three letters. Anybody else can? I don't know if you guys can see that.
OGPC?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Or OG5 maybe?
Yeah, maybe. It almost looks like a 2 at the end, though. I don't know if it shows up correctly on your end, but
Yeah,
do I have that? Yeah, there we go. Almost looks
there
like
you
a
go,
2.
man. You got the mystery fire.
The
Yeah, I have red
P2
line too. So
the
go ahead,
P2
Boom.
from Mr. Soul was like part of his back cross to the Cinderella 99. So it's like the
Right.
P50, the P75,
That's right.
that
That's right.
whole line.
Yeah, it's the GMX right there. It's the GMX fish that I have. Well, anything with that spot, I mean, it's just been a huge hit. I mean, I love it. It's felt, the chirps are just beautiful, fiery, gassy. I ran his F2 line as a tester to the Bewitched, and God, those F2s, I'll tell you, I think I got 9, 10 females. I think maybe even 10 females out of the 13 beans I cracked. And potentially every one of them could have been a keeper. The expressions that came through, from the colors to the chirp profiles, real earthy, real woody ones. I also had real gassy, some with some real sweet undertones. And then, you know what I did like though, from what did I get from him that had the no, I think it was the Bewitched line. I ended up getting a couple of the cupcake phenols. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that one. It smelled just like cupcake batter. It was pretty insane. Short, squat, I think it was, it came from the Witch's Brew. If I'm not mistaken, either Witch's Brew or because his Bewitched was made up Witch's Brew and Wizard's Potion. So it was some pretty insane. I think, and then I got one of the testers of those F2s was a monster producer. But it kind of, it would make big nugs, nice baseball bat nugs, but it was, and it was, but I had to let it go too deep. It was definitely something that had to finish. I had to let it go at least 10 and a half, 11 weeks, and I can't have something that's going to go that long. Not in this place. Now with the other places, that's what I'm hoping. That's where another thing I can get the timing down right. So, because with some of these sativas, I have one now. That's right, my GMO. Man, does that like to go long? That goes deep, about 11 and a half weeks. Finishes off.
Boom.
Beautiful.
I'm sorry, Charlie, to interrupt
No,
you. Boom just fucking freaked me out with his fucking background there. He just like fucking emerged from that fucking bud lips first.
I caught that too. I was cracking up.
Good. I'm glad it wasn't just me because I was reading chat. I looked over. I just kind of see his lips and face is come right out of that bud. And I was like, what
It
the
shows
fuck?
on his teeth.
Was
too,
that like that before?
That's pretty
Some
funny.
days I can get it to work. Some days it doesn't want to work, and I'm just stuck in it. We flipped that light on at work today. We got lucky.
Funny, that freaked me the
That
fuck
was
out.
awesome.
Hello, Mrs. D's Nugs. This is the episode that she requested when she heard we had I had an open spot tonight and was debating on whether or not I should do a guest or what. She was the one that was like, I'd really appreciate it if you would do a Q&A because I was kind of hitting around to see if you guys just wanted to kind of hang out, party, and talk anyway. But she was like, yeah, it'd be nice if you guys could actually answer some questions. I was like, yeah, sure. If you guys want it, I'll do my best to put something together for you. But I've been anxious to get Boom back on no matter what. He's back to work and fucking hard to get. You don't get to hang out so much anymore.
Busy man.
I'm glad you were able to join us tonight, Mr. Boom.
Yeah, glad to hop in. I'm here and chat every night until about 10:30 our time, and then I gotta pop off to work. But I'm usually there right when you're looking for a guest, and I'm like, motherfucker, stupid job. Gotta go to work, eh? Oh well. Modern Genetics in chat said Boom loves his edibles, and he's right. I had 4 today and took a nap and missed the start of the show.
So are you still calling those edibles a 30? Sorry, Charlie. Go ahead.
Just happy Mother's Day to all the mothers. It's after midnight. It's Mother's Day.
Yeah, happy Mother's Day.
You know, I lost my mother when I was real young, so mothers mean something to me. You know, so peace. You guys are the bomb.
Good looking out, Charlie. Good looking out.
Yeah, this new batch is probably more than 30. So we kind of use the last of the oil. It's that one. There's not enough to make 2 batches, so we'll clean it up. They were a little stronger than I anticipated. They work though.
I feel like you were talking about that last time where they were too stronger. They were stronger than you anticipated.
That happens a lot, you know. Math was not my strong suit.
I never hear you complaining though.
Try again.
Call you the Edison of the edibles.
Yeah. Yeah, we're figuring it out. We made some sour ones today. They're really good. I like these ones. They're just about at the level that if they didn't have weed in them, I'd fuck with them anyway. So I figure that's a good edible.
Nice. I wish I could eat them. I can't. They just knock me out. Doesn't matter how small. It doesn't matter. I mean, like.
That was the story I just told, Charlie. They knocked me out too.
I was like, 10 milligram little gummy bear. Forget it. 45 minutes later. But, I'm getting to be an old man, so I need a nap anyway.
It does take some getting used to. I would say I'm getting a little better where I can actually take a 50 milligram and not be zonked, but
I went through phases with them. I used to be really good at taking them, and then I'd have like a small one, like 60 milligrams, and I'd be leveled for like hours. And then I was back good again. Maybe I'm on a downward slope on my tolerance again. Maybe they are only 30 and they're putting me out. Who knows?
Yeah.
Me, the edibles are, I feel like that's when I'm getting the most medical benefit out of them. I can get a little bit of a buzz out of them, but that's when I feel like more at my most limber. I feel good from head to toe. You know what I mean? My body's loose. There's no achy spots. That's the main reason I prefer the edibles. But I do enjoy a good edible ride. Don't get me wrong. A good light dose just to keep you limber is great, but I like to go heavy-handed occasionally too. Just lock myself into a good day.
How you liking those generic newts? Eagle. How you like those generic? How you liking the generic newts now that you're further along?
The genetic mutes.
No, the generic nutrient.
Oh.
The nutrients.
They're doing good. I'm happy with them so far. Yep, I just actually started using them this week. I finally ran out of my other shit. I just started using them this week, so everything seems to be happy. I started them in a fresh fed cycle over here in the LADs. Seem to be happy so far.
Yeah.
I'll have better results probably next week, and be posting up some good pics for them.
Now, is it a full line or is it just an A and B powder?
It's an A and B that has pretty much everything in it. Let me sip over here, Greg.
Nice.
It is an A and B, and it has it's pretty much a custom blend 314 with CalMag and micros in it.
Nice. Very nice. Simple. I like that.
We were talking about simplicity earlier. It doesn't get much simpler than that right there.
No. Did they tell you to run anything different in flour? You know what I mean? Like any additives at all, or to bump one up to the other, or because I ran, just to give you a backstory, I ran Elite, and I when I saw the amount for their bloom booster, it was simple, but they still have the bottles. it was a simple 5-part. You know, it was 4 in veg, but their bloom booster, I immediately text them and said, or contact them, whatever it was. Now this is 5 years ago when they first came out, and I was testing them out for him, and I said to him right away, I said, you know, what do I need to do to get, you know, to get what I really, to match my plants and push them? And he told me right off the bat, up that booster 15 mils a gallon right away, you know, and maybe, and I'm sure they tweaked the formula since then, the recipe since then, to reflect it on the bottles and what to add. But at the time, he did tell me, because they were going into, you know, some of these big commercial Aggie grows and really killing it with his newts. And I'm like, that just can't be it. And sure enough, he said right away, yeah, just add an extra whatever. I think it was 15. But, and they're pretty popular now when it comes to commercial too. Have you heard of them? Elite?
Oh yeah,
Garden?
yeah, I've heard of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll run this as suggested for, you know, the first round and see how it goes, and then see what I could throw on top of it after that.
I just got a powder of the A and B of the Floraflex. I'm gonna try those out. They'll be my first powders I try. You know,
I've heard great things about the Floraflex.
Yeah. So, you know, my first time, I'm curious to see how it's gonna work. Now you're in cocoa, right?
Yeah.
All right. Just curious what you need more. Now,
I've been happy. I tell you what, I ran on that crappie salt or crop salt for a while.
Yeah.
That was good shit too. I was real happy with that crop salt. That was an A and B.
Yeah.
It was a much stronger formula though, and it did have separate instructions. You did step it up in flour.
Yeah. I saw the crop on
fact, yeah, he probably. I told crop salt, I was like, that's a good score right there. If you were looking for a rep, that's Many Cropper's a good rep right there, man.
Yeah.
Did you add anything to your crop salt at all? I know it's supposed to have all the calcium it needs right with it.
No, I didn't. I ran it. I was all the way to the end, just as suggested. I was fucking happy with it. Cool. Then fucking Blue Planet stepped in, and it was time for a change.
Yeah. How'd you like the Blue Planet? I almost ran them once. I almost got them. Just because of the price point.
Oh, I love Blue Planet. I ran them for years. I ran them before they kind of sponsored me, and when I out-pocketed it, probably about 8 years ago, when Titan Med were running that shit constantly, I jumped right on that train. For the money, it's fucking a great lineup. You know, totally satisfied with it. You know, what do you expect for it? Let's see here. You can get a 5-gallon kit system delivered to your door for like $200. That's your fucking micros, your fucking everything you need from transplant to bloom delivered to your door. Good product.
Mr. Tite was my introduction to them. I remember Mr. Tite when he ran them, and then Med Grower started running. You know, I saw everybody else starting to blow up with that. You know, they were starting to get a name. You know, but I remember Tite, and I was like, who the hell's Blue Planet? Then the Farmer's Pride line came out with the organic line, and he switched over to that. He was just loving it. He's been blowing it up ever since.
I really like that powdered seaweed that they had.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
You only had to use like a pinch at a time. It's good shit.
Yeah, I use Fluorosis Plus for that. My seaweed inputs, my humics, and little extra boost. You know, just one of my other organics. I run the Canna line now. So simple is, you know, in this place, Canna line, put it that way. Simple is the best. So, and I'm happy with it. Synthetic. You know, and I don't use it. You know, anybody out there that's using Canna full strength, I wouldn't advise. You know, it's just a waste of money. It's not going to do harm to your plants. It's quality, clean product. It's synthetic, but you run 50 mils. That's why you have to run a V A and B. You know, 40 in veg. You know, I mean, 10 mils in flour a gallon. That's it. And then I only run. I'm making. I do 5 in here hand watering. I do 5-gallon buckets. You know, I do 5 at a time, 25 gallons. But each 5-gallon bucket is just 40 mils. That's 8 mils a gallon.
do you go by EC or PPM, or what strength do you mix your PPM? 500?
Yeah. I mean, no, when I'm it's edge, it averages out right there, the high 4s, low 5s, you know, and then
500 scale though, not the 700 scale.
No, and then on the flower, I don't go above. I think the max with the PK1314 is only 950. I think and that's max. Usually I hover right around 9. You know, you know, if you mix it right, you can come close to getting a great pH on the cocoa. So I want right around 5.9, and I'd rather have it on the higher side of 5.9 than the lower side of 5.9 in cocoa. So I do my A and B, and then I do my boost, and I can get it right around 6.1, 6.2, and then just a couple of drops of the down. I don't like to add the down, up or down too much. So most I ever give a 5-gallon bucket would be 5 drops, 6 drops, you know. So that's it. It's pretty much right on. I mean, I could do it in my sleep at this point. It's been years. You know, I know what I'm going to get. The only reason why I actually have a PPM meter still is I have a higher end. I think they switched it into the Grow Tech for Hannah, a Hannah meter, but I got what's called the 1399 series. So, you know, at the time it cost like $600-700. It's a quick reader. That's the reason why I got it. It reads it real quick. Within 5 seconds, you get a stable read. It's stable. It's not like a Blue Lab pen where you get a 15 minutes. I used to have close to 50 DWC buckets going in this room right here, and they were all in individual friggin' air stones. There wasn't a research system. It was just 50 individual buckets. And I used to use the handheld combo. And then I was bent over so much. And then I tried the Blue Lab a couple times. My God, it would take you 10, 15 minutes to get a stable reading. So then Hannah's not far from me, the headquarters. So I talked to some of the techs, and they were like, yeah, go with this one. So I paid the little extra, and I've had the same meter ever since. So it's going on, I don't know, 6-7 years now that I've had this one. So not that I don't have my stockpile of old, shitty ones that have failed, ones that just suck. I got 4 Tretchens sitting around that I've never even used. You know, I got one of the higher end Milwaukee ones. I never even took it out of the box. It's just still sitting up there. I'm sure the electrode's so dry now. You have to soak it for a couple of weeks. You know how it is. And if it would come back. You know, so
hey, we got a question in chat from Manny or Manev about low stress training or topping. If you find one's gonna give a better yield than another one.
Like this question.
Go for it. Boom. You want to take that one? What do you do? What do you like to do, Smiley? What do you like to do?
I wouldn't really call mine a low stress training because I know that term is considered to be like tying them down. So mine would kind of fall more under that topping method, but I really don't cut the top. What I do is remove the top 4 leaves, and it's kind of known as like the GML right. Style or whatever. But so on the tallest shoots as they're coming up, I'll remove the 4 biggest leaves and just leave the littlest growth there. And then doing that on a regular basis, it'll allow all the shoots to kind of come up evenly. And I find that gives the best yield. But I don't know that there's a huge problem when you actually clip and top them, because I do take clones. I do that for cloning, but I just try to avoid it. And if I don't have to, I don't really want to go in there and hack a bunch of heads off the plant, because that's any of those tips are kind of like, you know, looked at like the plant's brain. So I don't know. I heard that and I was just like, I don't want to cut their brain off. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Me myself, I think you're not going to see a much better yield one and the other. I think it's more of a technique that for height restrictions. You know what I mean? I think if you're have height restrictions, then you should low stress your train your plant as soon as possible. Like strap it right down to the bend them and strap them down right to the pot and kind of keep a low profile plant versus topping where you're going to let it grow up with multiple tops. You obviously have a higher ceiling, which I prefer the topping method. Because I like a taller, bushier plant myself. And I also have noticed a direct correlation with when I'm topping that I know I've kind of pushing some of that energy back into the root zone. So I'm kind of forcing an explosion of roots at the same time I'm topping. So I'm kind of like working on both areas at once to where I'm low stress training. It's kind of so gently. You don't really notice as much root generation from low stress training method. So I guess it just really boils. I don't see a difference in yield mainly. I don't think you're going to change it from one technique to the other. It's the energy's there and everything's all the same. It's more or less a height restriction to me. If you like a taller, bushier plant, then you have light room. Yeah, I would definitely top. But if you're stuck in a tent and you don't have that much room, then you may want to think about low stress training from the get. Is my answer.
I've done just about everything. I've topped at, the third node, and I've done the GML style thing where you slow it down like the main cola and let the side branches come up around. But my last run, I had 2 Marion berries, and one was in a solo cup, and one had been already potted up and was double the size. So I ran one straight up, and it was half the size when it went in flower. It finished. It was the tallest plant in the room. It was 9 inches away from the light, and it grew that monster giant one single cola, right? Whereas the one that was topped, it probably yielded a lot better than that plant did because there was a lot more on there, but the buds were, a lot smaller. There was no, monster forearm size cola on there.
That's a good point too, because I do think that training style can matter on how the size of the buds and those things, how many main buds you have evenly.
Yeah.
So.
If I was in a competition to see who could grow, the most impressive looking bud, I'd take it from a plant that I ran straight up, Christmas tree style. I wouldn't try to get it off one that was topped. But if I was trying to fill, a bunch of jars for personal smoke, I'd top it.
Yeah.
You're gonna break that fucking big old nug down anyway. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that big old top cola is just a chance for fucking mold. So why grow one giant top when you can split it up into smaller, fatter colas?
Yeah.
Right.
The other thing too, I always say is bigger is not always better. Period. It's not. Some of the best fire that's out there doesn't produce big friggin' donkey dicks. They're solid, frosty nuggets, golf ball sized nuggets that are just beautiful. You just look at them and you just start getting wet. Sorry, it just give me goosebumps thinking about it.
Yeah, that's what I like. A bunch of golf balls too. You want the same nug to give you the same bud every time, right?
I'd rather have that plant concentrate all that energy and all those hormones on just creating that terpene that just hits you in the face. Just looking at it just gives you a real porn, and then you open that jar or that bag and it's like, wow. I mean, you can smell the kid walking up, you can smell it in the breeze. You know what I mean? You don't even have to be next to anybody, they can smell it. I mean, that's the stuff that you want. Granted, you're looking at a commercial end of it, you're going to want some that are going to be producers. You're going to pay the bills. There's no question. And there's going to be people that like it. And it's not that it's not going to be quality, and it's not going to be fire. It's just not going to have that little something that, just that little something just makes it so unique.
So the question kind of about it yielding more one way or another, I guess my opinion there, I think I'd hold to the term that watts equals yield more so than, how you train the plant underneath it. I think those are little tweaks and little variations, but I think your biggest gain or loss is going to be ultimately like what light source you're putting on the plant. Is my opinion.
Yeah. You fill all that. You fill your canopy in as much as you can. You have a little bit of light coming through. You know, I mean, that's obviously you want to get, you know, you want to max for your money, obviously. You know what I mean? But I will say that sometimes topping, and when it comes to LST or trimming or topping or you know, I do most of them. I try to stay away from topping, though I find it strain specific. Some plants you can top and they'll come right back. You'll see growth within 24 hours if they're starting to split off. And that secondary is going to try and come up and match up. I've had other ones that I've topped that shit a week later, and it's, you know, lucky to get a half-inch growth out of it. It has split, but it's just not as fast. It just gets, you know, gets stunted a little bit too much. So
Yeah,
I've done, yeah, go ahead.
I've had that too, short plants where you can, short plants that were going to be short and bushy anyway. If you top something like that, like a real short Urkel style plant, that's going to fuck it up, right? It was going to be so squat anyway. Now you got to, like, unless you're really going to take the time to mainline it out and do something like that, you could really fuck yourself up.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's better, instead of growing 4 bigger plants, you know, grow 25 small plants, right?
Absolutely. I mean, there's all, when it comes into that, there's all the variables, you know, how fast you need the turnover to be, why are you growing, what's your end game, and, you know, just all those little factors, the little nuances that come into really tweaking your grow and what you're doing it for, therapeutic wise. I mean, some people, you know, and I integrate all that into the way, you know, listen, I say this every day. I don't feel it every day, but I swear, you know, I'm fortunate to be able to do something that I love, and I don't work a day in my life. It's just, you know, they say do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. You know, there's never a day that comes into my mind that I you know, as everybody knows, it grows. That's all you think about. You know, sometimes my wife gets pissed. It's all the time. That's all I ever talk to her about. You know, because I bounce ideas off her. She's been around now long enough that I can start to bounce ideas. She actually knows what I'm talking about. She has a little, you know, she has some good feedback, but you know, just those little things. Sorry, I just got stoned, so I'm babbling. But
you know. Well, there's the question or the comment of, are you after biomass or oil production? But I guess my answer to that would be if you're producing more biomass in the nug or in the bud itself, I would imagine you're getting more oil production anyway. I mean, I don't think there's a one or the other. I would imagine it happens together. You know what I mean?
I debate that. I think it depends on strain style, right? You can have a lot of biomass that's super, super tight, and depending on how you're trying to get your oil, but you know, some stuff doesn't wash well at all. Like some smaller, fluffier nug style plant that you wouldn't want to smoke washes amazing, and you're going to get a lot more heads out of it that way. I guess if you're going to BHO it, then maybe more nug size, more, you know, but I don't know. Some stuff seems to produce a lot more trichomes than other stuff.
Comes down to surface area, trichome production on that surface area. That's why, you know, they say, not to cut you off, Boom, sorry. The data's coming back that, you know, obviously it's surface area, but they're even saying that the hardest, densest nugs don't give you all that surface area because there isn't the space in between the calxes to produce those trichomes. So when it comes, so yeah, that's where the strain specific can come in, and you can actually get a bigger harvest of extraction through extraction from certain strains than other strains because they're going to give you that surface area. So, you know, that comes down to doing your research. I mean, it's really what it comes down to, and see which strains, you know, see what the market's producing, and then, you know, that's really what it's all coming down to now. Is all, you know, they're finally starting to get data points that we can, baseline data points that we can kind of jump off of now, and, you know, compare ourselves to. And so, I don't necessarily go for production. I have, you know, this place that's kind of a lab where it's not imperative that I get squeeze every friggin' gram out of it. I'm looking for the quality, you know. So the tent, that's why we're thinking about doing soil so that we can get production, but we can also get that turf and the LEDs too. That's really what I'm really just trying to, you know, all my energy is into that now.
You've kind of brought something up there, Charlie, is you know, spectrum I think is key in that oil production, because I've ran strains several times under these HPS, you know, back to back to back, and then had room in the LED area and thrown the same strain under there, and noticed that the strain under the LED was always a lot more greasier under the LED system, you know, terpier and greasier. You know, back in the day, it was only, you know, a little bit lack of yield, but them days are over. You know, LED is more than caught up, you know, as far as that goes. But it's got a spectrum has to have a lot to do with oil production. You know,
it does, because that's what triggers the plant. It's all about triggering the plant to do what you want it to do, or doing certain things in its cycle. You know, get those myrcene, those limonene, get you know, the flavonoids, just, and that's what the LEDs do. I mean, imagine what it's going to be like 10 years from now with those LEDs. That's all I think about. Good Lord, when I'm still on this earth, they're going to be killer. When I saw Grandmaster the first time he switched over one of his rooms, you know, what were they, 24 light rooms or 12 light rooms? 24, right? The 3 rooms that he had going at the time at his place. And he switched one of them over to the HLGs, and he was doing a gram per gram. I mean, he really was, you know, and it was just amazing what he got. And the quality, he said too, was completely different with the LED, with those HLG 550s, the first ones that can't hit the market. You know, and to see it in a commercial setting like that is really what I want to see it do. And he nailed it. You know, even with all the problems that he said he had. You know, I mean, we all think we have problems, you know, and but you know, look at the quality that you're producing, Eagle. It's insane. Look at Smiley, you know. I mean, but we'll sit there and tweak ourselves, man. We're the hardest ones, you know. We're the biggest critics of ourselves. That's what I think. And I love that, because that's what gives us the passion. I mean, who gets into crazy detail the way we do? I mean, what to do and how to do it. You know, I could talk about this all day. My wife tells me to shut up. You know, and I have no one else to talk to, because it's all about security. I can't go around telling everybody what I do. I mean, who the hell does that? First of all, and I'm thankful that I don't have anything in my house. You know? No. So I can go off sometimes. I'm talking to you guys.
Boom Farms, I appreciate the way you fucking smoke. I think out of most people that I've had on, you're about the one that closest that smokes to cannons that I like to smoke. You smoke some joints over there, brother.
Yeah. I'll stretch a zigzag to the absolute limit. I'm not trying to smoke paper. I don't roll shit. I'm folding joints over here.
Is that a hand roll too? You hand rolling that motherfucker?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
I don't have the dexterity to get the paper to tuck under, so I got to make it so they just barely touch.
I cheat. I got a fucking roller that does this shit. I mean, I could probably one, but it ain't gonna be that pretty. It's gonna be all fucking pregnant. Yeah, that's a well rolled hand joint there.
Yeah. I got it right in my eye too. Taking a beating on camera over here. Holy shit.
I got myself bad today from that fucking dry trimming.
Hey, like,
I usually wear fucking like just my left hand, the hand I'm usually handling the bud with the most, and then my scissor hand I usually will leave ungloved.
Same.
Because that's the hand I'm setting the fucking scissors down, I'm playing with the phone, I'm hitting the joint, fucking, and I'm not really handling the bud. But man, I fucking dry trimming today. I fucking got that shit all over old righty there and fucking just jammed that shit in my eye. Oh, I was like, again, God damn, that's dry trim. I got a nice hunk of it done today, but oh man, I'm done with the dry trimming for a minute.
Back on the wet train, eh? You guys were talking about that the other night when I was going off, and so I'll tell you the experiment that I did on my last run. Well, my last run that I was happy with. I've had one in between, but I hung everything for 14 days, and then one of the strains I trimmed and put straight into the bucket, and everything else I bucked and put in the bucket with their leaf on it. And of the 3 strains that went in the bucket, the one that I trimmed and cured without the sugar leaf didn't smell half as good as the other 2. Like, and it's not like it was a strain specific thing. It's like the amount of terps when I opened the bucket that was trimmed was like a 5, and the amount of terps that came out of the other 2 were like 8s. Like, it was a significant difference curing with the sugar leaf on it. So put that out.
I'm fucking so close to right now because I'm already into my next harvest.
Yeah. It doesn't
And
hurt to let it sit there either. Like I'm saying, I think it was better letting it sit with the sugar leaf on it. And get to it when you get to it.
I may just fucking wash a lot of it too. Just be fucking done with it. Chuck it right into the fucking wash.
Yeah, a lot of guys that agree with that too, though. Boom, leaving the sugar leaf on.
Yeah. I always felt lazy. Like I wanted it wet trimmed the day it came down. I used to trim it. And, you know, the amount of heads you lose on that, I think the amount of rub I got to get on scissors is equal to what I'd lose in a trim bag if I, you know, over trimmed and flipped it through the trim bag. You can overwork a trim bag to shit too. Like, and certain buds aren't going to come out well. Like my Gorilla Glue I put through there, and it's kind of got little foxtails everywhere. It came out pretty round, but you know, it's making killer edibles right now, so can't complain.
Yeah, saved a ton of time too.
Yeah, I just bought it for basically like I don't put the big ones in there. Like I'm trimming anything that's awesome and anything that makes it through my hash selection process, just put it through the bag. There's some buds that it's not worth your time to touch them with scissors. It's like, man, it's not worth it. Get rid of it.
It's amazing how you can your criteria gets to on that dry trim. There's shit there that I would have normally fucking chap real quick with the wet and fucking maybe claim that on later on. But fucking when you're dry trimming, you get towards the end of trimming them big nugs, that fucking trim or hash pile gets bigger and bigger. You start looking at it going, fuck that. Fuck
Yeah.
that.
I'm a hash man, so I don't mind that.
Yeah. No shit.
Who we
Russ
got?
stopped it.
Dude,
Ferguson
H is
fucking
badass.
lost.
He's a badass, dude. That's not a big surprise.
Thank you, Anova. I appreciate that shit. God damn. I fully expected fucking. That was a tough call, though. Gaethje's such a hard-headed motherfucker. He can take such a beating. God. Ferguson's a wily bitch, though. You know what I mean? You just don't know what's coming from that dude. God,
I bet it was a hell of a fight, though, round 5. So they went into that, and there's a technical knockout, but I bet you they were after each other, man. Both of them guys are like fast plays.
No.
On your ass, you know.
When we say TKO, what are we saying here? Was it a cut? Because they stopped one earlier in the night for a cut too. Nico Price, well, his eye was full shut. It was bad, but
no idea.
Well, at least it went to 5. That's a good fight, and you can guarantee that shit was fucking a battle. There was no fucking hold up and tie ups and that shit wrestling. That was fucking all fucking fight punches and kicks right there. 5 rounds of punches and kicks. Yeah. I think fucking Gaethje, he is too. He's just got that fucking head like a rock. You're either gonna crack that melon and knock him out, or he's just gonna fucking keep coming at you. Damn. Yeah, I'm still gonna try to watch that somehow later tonight. I wish that. So if you riddle me this, if you buy that fucking the ESPN plan, which they were pushing, because I think that was the deal. Do you then after fucking get deals on the pay-per-views?
No. No, you don't. Pay-per-view. I think maybe it's, yeah, no, I'm pretty sure you pay exactly the same.
Because I get fucked up here in the woods every time. You know what I mean? If I were down in the cities, I'd be gathering up a few buddies. Anybody go, you know, come on, $8 a piece, man. We can do this shit. Let's watch fight and shit. Get fucking high and shit. Up here in the woods, man. Especially right now, you fucking not even supposed to have fucking 8 people together and shit. God damn it, motherfuckers. I wasn't springing for that $84 just for myself either. I wanted to watch the fight, but I didn't want to watch it that fucking bad.
Sweet. There was some VPD questions. Anybody running along the lines of VPD?
I just run hot and humid. That's all I can say. I don't really stick to the VPD too much. I'm looking at my room humidity and temp right now. My humidity is 56. I'd like to see it 60, 65. And I'm at 27.5. I'd like to see it 28, 29. That one's not that far off. But yeah.
Oh, that would have been Sergeant Pepper's realm right there. He was supposed to log in. He usually runs a bigger deficit. PDP.
Yeah, and like the first week of flower, I run my humidity fairly high still, because basically the first week you're still pretty much in veg, right? A lot of stretch growth going, so I run that at about 70%. And weeks 2 and 3, I drop it to about 60%, and then after that, 50 from there to harvest. So I kind of chicken out on VPD at the end there. Once you start getting bigger, you know, more mass to your bud, I'm like, yeah, I'm good with that. Okay, see ya.
You can make a small adjustment to it too. I mean, dropping 5-10% in your humidity is a huge swing on that. You know.
Yeah.
It's definitely staying in a range, I would say.
When you get that air circulation up top, you should be good no matter what, either way. Keeping that moisture right off the top. Right? That's really what you don't want. You don't want that moisture getting caught in between one of those calyxes, and next thing you know, you get botrytis 3 days later, especially at those daytime. You know, it's just going to just expand in there. Anybody that's had botrytis knows that one. I've had it a few times over the years, but more outdoor than anything. You know, always get hit with it outdoor, especially around here. I'm New England, up in New England. Or mid New England, really. But yeah, you know, we can have those real damp late fall or early fall days, you know, where it gets real warm during the day and then we're going to drop 25 degrees, 30 degrees at night, you know. You guys know, you're in Michigan, I forget. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. And you boom, you know, you're wet up north in Christ, yeah.
Well, I know all about the cold, yeah.
Those swings, man. Those swings, I can tell you. So that's when you're playing the game. Even tonight, we're going to have snow. We're going to have a freeze anyway, 28. I feel bad for anybody that doesn't have a greenhouse to put their stuff. They haven't put up a hoop house yet. They've got some, you know, some teams out there or something that they just put out first week in May. I mean, it's usually what it's suggested, and we're already into the second week. So, you know, you're going to get down to 28 degrees tonight, and I feel bad for anybody who doesn't have anything that's going to be out there to protect them. Because you can really screw them up, especially out
snowing here this morning.
Weaken them real fast. Yeah, we had some snow today here too. Just a flurry though.
Yeah, fuck that winter shit, god damn it.
Yeah, same. I'm done with that now. We'll get hail a couple more times, I'm sure. Big hail. We get hail in August here every now and then, so.
Yeah, we don't usually get snow. Even a flurry, it's May. You don't get it. You know, I'm in the Boston area. You don't get snow this way last time I remember getting snow, it was May 10th, 1977, and we got 7 inches, something like that. But I mean, it didn't last 24 hours, obviously. Sure enough, we were, as a family, down Disney World on vacation. So when we called up here, they were like, hey, shit, we got 7 inches or 10 inches, whatever the hell it was. It was 77 for Christ's sake. We haven't seen snow this late in the season for a while.
I haven't seen that one question from Mrs. D Snugs. Have you seen a question from Miss D Snugs? You still out there, Miss D Snugs?
It was her idea for the show.
I know it. That's why I was wondering if anybody's seen a question and shit.
I thought she was gonna come on and ask what your favorite pizza topping was or some shit.
Cheers, chat. I can't see chat. Thanks for everybody who's here, hanging out with us. I can't see anybody. And happy Mother's Day again.
69 right now hanging out with us, guys.
Yeah.
69 great folks hanging.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
You got to do your rundown there in chat. I'm trying to catch up with questions. I don't know if anybody else is watching. I might miss some.
I'm watching a little bit. I was reading, guilty reading up on
It
the
helps
there.
if they tag somebody, though, if it is a question for us.
Right. I've seen something here about turbs. Could have swore. How warm do you guys run your rooms with LEDs? I'm hearing 80 to 82. That's perfect. I actually run up closer to 84.
I was just going to say that, yeah, you can run it hot. It's not as big a deal if your LED room overheats as if it is your HPS room overheats. You don't have that UV that's going to wreck the plants and add surface temperature. So it's just air temperature, right? So they can defend air temperature better than internal temperature, sunburn.
Yeah, if you have CO2 supplement, you can get supplemented CO2. You can run hotter too.
Yeah, that's a good point too, Charlie. Yeah, CO2, you can go even hotter.
LED, especially with the heat. This is what I have never run an LED in flower. All I can think of is, though, you're not going to have that hot point at an HBS. That's one of the reasons why they made it double-ended, or the CMHs, because they wanted more of an even spread, so that you can get some real hot spots, or hot points as they call them, or whatever, from the diffusion. And I have an issue here with it. I can have some condensation coming in sometimes. It'll sit inside my reflector, because I have the triple XL sun system, triple XLs that I'm running. It's old. It's like lifting weights every time you want to pull them up and put them down. And but I can get some condensation sometimes, especially when we have those big swings or real humid in the summer. And sure enough, it'll create a hot spot, and I'll have one of those tops. That's all it takes. One of those tops to be a little bit too close, and it's not even bleaching. You're gonna get a straight out burn at the top. You're gonna brown it right out. You're gonna think it's botrytis, but it's not. It's not moist. It's not nothing. It's just a straight burn. It's like a magnifying glass. That little drop of water. I have it right now. I can show you 3 tops right now that got it. One side of it. It's only one side of it. It's the very, very top. That's it.
Speaking of magnifying glass, how cool was that? Joel doing solar hits out on his porch there. That was great yesterday. Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah,
So I was going to add, for the temperature and humidity, and monitoring that leaf temperature is still the most important thing. So the reason you can run cooler for like an HPS is because that light spectrum will heat up the leaf, and then a little more than what because I believe it's the infrared that'll heat them up like that too. But in the LED, I'll run them 80, 82, because that's kind of the leaf temperature goal you're after, is like 82, 80, 82. And that's where photosynthesis can be the most efficient. And that's why it's that. So it's not a matter of like necessarily trying to, you know, push your heat to the limit, you want to try to optimize photosynthesis. So you're trying to match that leaf temperature to give it the right temperature to operate at, and you're trying to give it CO2 to supply the photosynthesis process in a certain way, and the light source is going to drive that. So it's kind of a balance of all, but I don't know. I guess that's my 2 cents on it. So if you're trying to dial your room in, that's goal, I guess. You know.
Good point.
Yeah.
Looking for the surface temperature of the leaf. Absolutely. I mean, when I had DWC here, I couldn't get my flower room because I didn't have the cooling at the time, because I inherited this place, you know, 7, 8, 9 years ago, whatever the hell it was. And then, you know, like I had said before, that they didn't invest in the environment. They just thought, throw a few fans, a few lights, get a little portable AC, and they were good to go. And so when I was first here, I was running the DWC, and I couldn't run. I had to make sure that my temperatures in there in the daytime weren't running any more than 72, 73 degrees. Because I had to keep I didn't have a chiller. It wasn't a research system. I had to keep all those buckets at least when it's 70-degree variance. And believe me, one corner of the room on a 15 by 15 is not the same temperature as another corner of the room on 15 by 15. In the middle of the room.
So here's the question. I got an add-on question for you guys. So, like in that case, so now temperature, say you got a room, you're struggling to control temperature, and you got 1,000-watt ballast running an HPS light in there. It's pretty average, I guess, but and you have the option to dial that back to a 750 or a 600 watt on the ballast. So you're not necessarily changing the bulb. It does change the spectrum some to do that, but I guess would you say that you're better off dialing that light back, or trying to run the higher power light still and run a hotter temp?
I dial it back. You know, depending upon a couple of other things, I probably dial it back to a 750. That's for sure. That way you're not going to try and blast out, you know, I'm thinking, you know, your cooling system too. You don't want to, you know, saving energy as well. You know, I only have one in this place here. I still have the original, you know, Chinese dial, 3 of them anyway out of the 6 that I run. The other 3 I can dial back, but when this place was first built, and they put those, you know, they just got the cheap crap. And 3 of them are still running fine, but you can't dial them back. So, and they weren't it wasn't as common back then either to be able to dial it back. I remember there was only a couple of models like Nanolux, maybe a couple of the Phantoms and the Quantums had just come out with durables at the time. So that was just starting to become a big thing. But, sorry if I hijacked. Sorry.
No, not at all. That was just.
I dial it back because you don't want to stress the plants. I mean, it's just, you know, there's benefits to dialing it back. You're not going to get the same penetration either. I mean, you know, depending upon where you are in flower, you know, that would probably make a difference to me. Especially if I was towards the very end, you know, you're in flush, get a couple, 3 weeks left max, dial it right back, because then you're not going to stress those tips out as much. And those things are just going to be hardening off more than you're going to be putting on more production anyway. So you're just going to be maturing. So, and you know, that's why sometimes even with the perpetual I have here, I'll start moving plants last 2 weeks from directly under the light, so I can put the new ones in, have them offset, getting the secondary light on the side. So I'm not stressing them, and it helps the terpene profiles towards the end.
Yeah, I think temperature is a more critical thing. You'd want to keep that down more than trying to push light to it, because it doesn't matter at that point if your temperature is too hot on the leaf. You're not going to be You're not going to be making use of the light. You're just cooking them at that point. So it's kind of.
What would your ideal temp do? If you could, what's your ideal temp, Smile? What do you like to run it?
With the LEDs, I'm trying to keep around 80, 82, but sometimes they'll slip around 86 later in the. I don't know. My AC units aren't the best. I got to work on that yet. So.
I'm the same. I like to run it right around there. If I can get a 60-65% humidity, I will, but I like to run it low 80s. In the summertime, I can spike up to 88, 89 degrees sometimes. Right,
Yeah, I'll push 65% humidity. 70 doesn't scare me. You know, I'm more worried about what it's going to do when the lights kick off with the humidity.
Right.
I'll try to make sure, like, I'll start dropping that, either shutting, if you got a humidifier, shut that off a half hour before the lights go off, shit like that. But you want that. You don't want to hit the tube.
Yeah, I know what you mean. What do you like to run at night? How, like 72, 75?
Yeah, I try to keep it within a 10 degree, but sometimes it'll slip within a 15. So, like if I'm 82, it'll be around 67 at night, kind of thing.
That's not bad. You're gonna bring out some nice colors, man. No question.
Yeah, it doesn't really. I mean, I don't see like that as being a too cold of a. Seems like more in the 50s you'll get the color throw to me. But I don't know. I just had a one turn purple this last round, but I don't think it was temp. I don't know.
Usually the purple I see is either I stress something out, so I'm seeing purple, or I get something that's going to be genetically purple. Not a lot of stuff goes purple for me when I drop the temperature too much.
Yeah, I don't mean like it's going to turn purple like by math. You know, I mean it's in the genetics come through.
Yeah,
just more exposed. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get around 60. I used to have a few that I wanted purple out. I noticed that once I stayed mid 70s, low 70s at night, I wasn't getting the same color as when I was going down to 68, even that 5-degree drop or so. And they were really starting to show some real purpling. You know what I mean? Some real expressions coming through.
Yeah, this one was different because I had 4 different. It's the same clone in 4 different pots, and one of the 4 threw like a really hardcore purple, and the other, like, it was really beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful, and up until then, that one actually looked to be. I mean, it was in the most healthy condition. So I don't know if it was just because I thought that was the healthiest plant. So I'm like, I almost think it just was that healthy to where it unlocked it. It unlocked that.
That's exactly what I was just going to say, Smiley. It's sometimes they got to be the healthiest one to reach their full potential like that. I know that Grandmaster Level says that the death bubble is not done right unless it turns purple. If you take it down and it's green, you didn't do it right. It went wrong somewhere for you, right? It should turn purple so you know that you've nailed it.
Yeah. It's not like a purple bud though, just like the sucker leaves.
No, yeah, just in the fans and stuff, the fade that you get.
Yep, it's really pretty.
Yeah, I didn't really get anything this round that was super pretty like that, you know. I'm really happy with the structure on the gelato. That's the one that I kept. I'm going to let the Marion Berry go. It's too foxtail-y for me. It's just, you know, small buds and then it's all fingers after that, right? It's not like the good booking foxtail. So letting that go, and the do-si-do I'm not too happy about. It's just, I don't know, too floppy. Not for me, not for the room.
Not worth the hype.
It's just that compared to the gelato, I like the gelato better. Everything about it. I like the way the bud looks. I like the way it, you know, it's sizier bud, better looking shape. The plant had at least some structure to it. The do-si-do, like 40 days in, couldn't keep it, you know, couldn't keep anything that wasn't directly tied up was going down quick. Man.
I like that decision process though. They weren't right. They weren't right
for the room. That's it, right? There's lots of stuff that I love that fucking, you know, you can't go growing a big tall sativa in a short room. You know, you only got 8 feet to work with, and I like the bushier style. You know, shorter indica plant over a taller sativa plant.
Plus, there's so many different seeds out there to pop. It's like,
I know, man. Yeah, that's what I'm doing this round. I'm looking through. I was gonna look through 8 strains, but I had some stuff that didn't take, and some stuff fell behind. So I popped a couple backup beans of stuff that I already popped. So probably gonna have 6 different things, 2 double ups. Yeah, excited to look at some new stuff though.
Regular seeds found. Regular.
I've got a mix. I've got a couple feminized. Yeah, I think most of the stuff this round's feminized. There's 2 or 3 things. I got a space bomb that's regular, so that might be a male. But
So, boom, I just happened to think about you today because I happen to know of another breeder that was on somewhat recently, wink, last night, that was looking for some good fucking reliable testers. If you're thinking about doing some testing and good, I'm sure you provide some good data. I'm sure I know some good folks that would like to have you do some testing.
oh yeah, yeah. Well, I'm in Canada, right? So sometimes that gets tricky, and I do know stuff that comes over the border has a rough germ rate. As soon as something leaves the States to Canada, they irradiate it, right?
Really?
They X-ray the shit out of it, right? So like all of the new sub gear that came over, you get like 1 out of 5 seeds to germ in Canada. Yeah, because they were just blasting the shit out of it. So
Why would they do that? Just because of that fucking
dicks.
reason?
That's why dicks.
That's some bullshit right there. Huh. That bull.
Yeah.
That's bull.
The agricultural laws in Canada are super, super weird sometimes, you know. Like, we're gonna try to protect you. You can have no microbial life of any kind. Like, well, microbes are in the soil. What do you, it needs to be microbial life?
I don't know. But I don't know, Boom. I don't know. It's a whole different country.
So the question in chat there was, how close do you guys want your buds or your colas? I don't know. None of you guys really scrog. Do you scrog at all? So I don't want them touching for sure, but usually I got them squared out on my scrog in every 3-inch square, and I try them to have a cola every 3-inch square. You know what I mean? That's kind of the goal. I haven't done it yet, but that's the goal.
Yeah, I usually just shoot for as many tops that I can fit around the tomato cage. You know, stuff starts leaning over, you start tying it over a little bit. It occurred to me that, this is why those guys use the scrog, because once it's done, right? They don't have to come back the second time and, oh, this is falling over, tie that back up. That's already taken care of with the scrog.
Yeah, and then it'll hold. Yeah, they hold up that way, but
I'm
Yeah, it
still
depends
not
on the
sold
plant.
on the scrog. I'm sorry, Charlie.
Oh no,
That's the tuna commercial.
I was thinking about I was just thinking about structure of the plant. Some that have good stretch to them. You can maybe fit a couple. I fit a couple through each 3-inch square or 5-inch square, depending upon which net I have. It depends on the stretch what I get in flower. As long as there's good airflow and they're not touching, like you said, Smiley, you just definitely don't want them touching ever. So just, but I do the tomato cages here. Boom. I feel that all the way when it comes to that. I can't stand when they're over vegged and I got a tomato cage by myself. But they do. They just, you start using the tomato cage like a straw. You want to spread those branches out, get as much light penetration as you can, get them into pre-flower while I pop them up, and then, they're going to start falling over, and you got to tie them up to the tomato cage. It's such a pain in the butt, just brushing them. And I have to move my plants. I've got a perpetual in here, and I'm constantly moving them.
That's the thing with me, man. That scrog net gives me such anxiety. Like, what if I have to get back in that corner? What if, right? Like, yeah.
It gives me anxiety too because I've got to harvest one right over here, and I can't just fucking lift that scrog net off and pull one of the plants out and pull it over here. I gotta just start chopping on that motherfucker and throw it in a tray. And I'm not liking that idea either.
I do love scrog nets. Thank you. I love being able to scrog something. Most likely that's what we're going to do in the tent. But you can get a 360 around the tent. You can access those plants. I'm not going to move them like I have to here. So we definitely.
My tents are so locked in though, Charlie. I only got one-way access to my tent. and 4 foot
Yeah, right.
bend over. I don't know. That's the other bitch, like Boom saying, that bend over like that when you're de-leafing and fucking around, man. But constant half hour of bending over on that, that's a fucking backbreaker, man. Of de-leafing in the town like that.
And it takes hours to do it right. I mean, you're doing it right with me, especially with the amount of plants that you have, Eagle, and same with you Smiley, and Boom. I'm sure you too. You're in there for a while doing your plants when you're defoliating. When you're ripping those, you're in there for, I am anyway. I can be in that room doing every plant. It takes a good 15, 20 minutes for each plant, at least. Because you're looking, you're strategizing how you want to place it.
Yeah, I definitely take my time with it. I'm not commercial, right? So if I had a boss, he wouldn't be happy with how quickly I was defoliating a room.
I probably would be more open to it if I had a 360 access, if it was an open room and I could do shit like that.
That's what I was gonna say, Eagle. Yeah, if I had 2 extra feet in both directions in my room, I'd go with a Scrognet because then I'd have room to walk around. But you know what I mean? So it's an access thing for me, right? I can't get to the back wall, so I don't think a Scrognet works for me. If I had like 3 aisles, like how Fagroli has his setup, I think that's perfect. That's a great way to use the Scrognet. Or rolling tables that are scrogged out like that. Yeah, that's great. But I don't know. I just the thought of not being able to reach something in the back, I don't like it. Bothers me.
I like to be able to, because mine are on rollers. I can spin them from where I'm at now and be able to work on the plant from where I'm at. If worst comes to worst, I can pull it out and be able to work on it, put it back in there.
That's a good point too. Sometimes partway through flower, you realize I got the wrong angle on this. Stretch is funny, or you realize if I turn this 90 degrees, all of a sudden all this is going to be getting way more light. You can't do that with Scrognet. You're locked in.
Yeah, because I do spin my plants all the time, especially when they're first in flower. I give them a quarter turn every day. Depending on how I feel, I can do a half turn every day. You know what I mean? But I make sure try and get them even light all the way around. Get that plant as full as I can possibly get it.
But if you're doing a Scrognet, you wouldn't need to spin them. You're building that into this,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So you're training the plant to your space more than trying to spin it around and move it around as much.
Yeah.
This is the way I do it. I lollipop them right up to the first scrog, and then I got a top scrog that I put.
Oh, you just hit another fucking nightmare. See, especially with the size pots I'm working with, which are 10s. You get 4 to the 10th there, and when it comes time to clean up that under, oh my god, trying to get in between them pots, and that's a fucking nightmare too. That in itself is a nightmare. I hate that day. I hate the under cleanup day. That's a bitch trying to that's fucking Twister right there. You might as well throw out the Twister fucking thing and fucking A7 green.
See, but that's my yoga workout, Eagle. You got the wrong perspective on it. It's a healthier way for me. I get my
Smiley, you're making just one thing. You're making great points because it's great to have 4 of us, all different ways, and every application works for each grower for how you feel for it, the way you want to, and it gives everybody a good perspective of different ways of doing everything. You know what I mean? That's why
I don't think there's a yield increase because of a scrog. I don't think. I just think it's a different style and a different tech, and it works in different areas. And I think you guys kind of made that same point, and that's it. It's about finding what works for your room. And I really don't think I'd look at it like that either. Like, oh, if I did this, I'm going to yield more, because I don't know that that's always going to be the case. There are some things, but not huge changes.
Let's be totally honest here. Like I was looking at Michigan Canico's grow that Spartan was showing off today, them tables and shit. And almost every commercial setup that I've had kind of seen, is the same MO. It is kind of the sea of green. They're like scrogged out, like you're saying, on tables. But let's be honest here. It's like an older man setup, if you will. That shit's fucking 30 inches up off the floor.
On rolling tables.
And rolling tables, and well, them things, a lot of them will fucking lift up or sink if you know what I mean. Jack it up so I can work under the undercarriage, sink her down so I can do a little bit of de-leaf in there. You know,
But that's a good point, because they're a commercial operation. I mean, they got the highest tech stuff that's out there. Like, you know what I mean? That's not something you can compare to a home grow. And like, so like guys thinking, oh, I'm going to get 2-3 pounds of 1,000 watts and out of my basement. Well, that's maybe something the professionals do. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not something easy to do. Like, yeah, it can be done, but it's going to take a lot of homework and a lot of doing things right, you know, and that's
going to take the right strain too. You know, if you're popping your own beans and you don't know what you're doing, if you found a smaller cookies cut that you really like early on, and you're trying to make that yield 3 pounds, probably never going to happen, you know. But you pop an AK-47 bag seed, right, and all of a sudden you get 2 pounds off a cola pretty quick, right? But
yeah, and I think the benefit of really scrogging even in a tent is a situation where, say, you're only allowed to grow 6 or 4, like some of the states are, you know what I mean? So now, if I only had 4 plants, you better believe I'm gonna try to get that son of a bitch to be big, and I'm gonna try to make it and stretch it and train it and do whatever I can to get that thing to cover as much of that light canopy, you know, and make as big a buds, you know. And so them techniques work great in certain criteria. You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense in other criteria. It's not going to make sense for a commercial guy to try to do that with it, you know?
exactly, you got to have the right tool for the job, right? You got to find what's right for your space, you know. Like, just because you see Smiley doing something, you go, oh, that's really cool. Maybe you can't pull that off in your spot, right? Like, you gotta figure out what you have for a space, how much you can, you know. It's not just what's one guy using. I saw Miss T's Nugs in chat, and she asked what's everybody using to automate their grow. I'm using auto pots, and they work good for me. It's just the sub irrigation system, gravity fed, no pump. Yeah.
Yeah.
I assume that's all she meant, like for watering.
Yeah, Floraflex. I mean, you do a ebb and flow. I mean, that's the easiest of all the automates right there. You know, do a wick feeding. Wick feeding is good anyway for the plants. Anything that's going to wick feed, it's not going to put that pressure, because that gravity of that water every time you top feed, it's going to compact that soil. Whereas you're going to make those roots go down into that soft soil. You're giving them the least path of resistance. So wick feeding is always the best. I mean, Floraflex is huge. You know, those soft drip systems, as they call it. You're not just blasting it like some of the big irrigations that you can see, commercial grows. And then, you know, when it comes to plant size, they even have it down. You know, Arroyo, they're the ones that are doing now. They're doing data points where, you know, whether it's a commercial grow and it's got an application even that you can put it into a home grow or even a mid-sized boutique grow, is they're actually getting you down to the size of your stock. How much stock is going to be in your end product to bud, to the biomass that you're going to get on top, you know. So they're really dialing it in. So you can have, even being a home grower doesn't mean necessarily have to have, even if you have 4 plants, like Smiley was saying, and a great point, you want to push them out sometimes, but other times it's about the rate of turnover. So you have a shorter veg time, put a small plant in, you're going to have less waste. You're going to get the same amount of bud pretty much, because it's only going to be that much light penetration no matter what light you're using, you know. So you're gonna only get so much. So do you want to have a faster turnover, or you want a longer veg time and like a bigger plant? Do you like more rock? I mean, you're going to run some of that into oil, edibles, or do you just want all that grade A bendable bud up top? You know? So, but you know, there's an application for everything. That's what I always say. You know? Many growers out there. There's so many ways there are to do it. You know, when it comes to the big guys with deep pockets, they're looking at data points. That's all they care about now. They want their money returned, and they're going to see the fact. That's why those rolling tables are so awesome. That's why they're not going to grow huge bushes. They want that turnover. And they're going to have schleppers in there that maybe most of them don't even know what the heck they're doing. They're just the minimum wage guys that are going in there. You know, they're learning how to, no experience needed. They're getting guys in there to do the leaf strip. They, teaching them how to prune. You know, because they're looking at the turnover. That's why they can run 30 strains in a huge room. 5,000 cubic foot room or a couple of 2,500 cubic foot rooms. Those things are huge, man. A lot of this is NDAs too. You can't even discuss it, because now it's all proprietary. Best way to win in this industry is to help each other out. Going against each other is a losing proposition, especially when it comes to boutique farming, because they're the ones that are fighting against those big guys. And they all think that everything that they have is proprietary, and it's not. They should be working together.
Getting patents for their intellectual property. Yeah.
Right.
That's it, right? Their idea on how to.
That's why Pat King over at the Soil King, he's like one of the ones in the industry that has integrity. He's writing these contracts and doing the production for these guys, processing their stuff. And it's benefit. And he writes every contract for the benefit of the farmer, not for the, which is very unusual. You hear some of these horror stories about some of these guys out there that, you got to come up with 100 pounds every 3 months of the same string. The new height. So, sorry, I get off on a tangent when it comes to that.
I just want to say, yeah, I can agree with you guys. It depends on your room or what space you had available. I know my grow setup has changed every time according to my space and how I can maximize my space. The area I'm in right now, the only way I would be able to do what I do is through tents. You know what I mean? To be able to maintain a multi-room, if you will, harvest, perpetual harvest is in the same area is only through tents. You know what I mean? If I were to able to run rooms, straight up rooms, my systems would be completely different. I'd be, whatever I felt was necessary to maximize and rock that system out. I mean, ultimately, if I had in my head right here, if I could get the cash, you know what I mean? My grow room system would be just like this. Shit, you not. It would be a setup to where it would be wall to wall bud. Them tables would be, or the rooms would be smaller rooms. It's probably say like 10 by 10 or say maybe 10 by 12. They would have a giant roll up door at every fucking room. Like a fucking, it wouldn't be a man door. It'd be like a garage door, roll up door. And that shit would be on tables.
Yes.
Fucking wall to wall. I just pull that fucking table out.
Fuck that.
Pull them tables out into a fucking center workroom. Do what I gotta do. Fucking shove them bitches back in. Close that fucking door up. Move on to the next fucking room. Same thing with harvest. That way that when I pull them tables out, somebody could be in there. And while them tables are pulled out and being harvested, them rooms could be fucking cleaned up and ready for restocked and shit. I could just push them, refill them tables and shove them right fuck back in. I'd probably have 2 tables. That way I had a backup one could be fucking clean and ready and like kind of pre-stocked. So when that harvest was ready, it was just almost like, all right, get in there, clean that bitch down. Kind of what's going on behind me right here. Look, this fucker's, boom, you see the cleaning shit? This fucker's emptied out. This thing's going to be wiped down, fucking floor to ceiling. I'm going to clean out these fucking lights. Tomorrow when you see this bitch, there'll be 8 new plucking plants in there. That's the way this system rolls. They empty, they get refilled. It used to be fucking such a tight room. It was fucking an 8 by 20 fucking canopy that I fucking run, and it was wall to wall. When I wanted to water that bitch, I fucking pulled one out. I pulled almost the whole room out to the what I could reach and water, and then I'd fucking put them in fucking bitches in there every night. Refill that room, shut the door, When one was ready, one went back in there. Boom. You know, that's just the way that original room fucking cleaned out, man. That's the way that first one rolled.
Boom.
That's labor intensive. That's labor intensive. You're putting in a plant, different cycle, man. That's good for you, man. You know what I mean? I've got to do 40. I have to do 40 gallons sometimes here, 3 different mixes, sometimes 4 even. You know, I've got my 5-gallon buckets lined up. I fill them each one up, and I'll do 15, 20 gallons of one mix. I'll do another 15, 20 gallons of another mix for the veg or bloom, and then some that are in the middle of week 5. So I've got to do a booster in that one, and and then I have some that are flushing. So and I always add to my flush. I don't just the only maybe I give them a 3-week flush. Last week maybe sometimes I won't put my additives like my sugars and my enzyme. Just in straight RO water, but that's few and far between. Giving them something till the end of the floor, plus the herb natural always till the end. And my sugars, But that's all. Credit to you, putting a plant in. You got to make a mix just for that plant. First thing a flower, and then you get all the other ones that get finishing out different phases. A lot of work there, Eagle. Good for you.
See, I'm running Blue Mott. There was some discussion in the chat about the Blue Mott system. So I've been actually, the Blue Mott are nice. I have a reservoir that I hung from the ceiling, so it's gravity fed to it. That's one issue with the Blue Mott is if you're going to chain too many pots together, you really got to make sure you have a large enough reservoir, high enough. There's some instructions on the website for that too, but what you're trying to do is supply enough pressure to be equal through the whole line so that one dripper isn't getting more than another. So that's one problem I had with them was having to make sure I elevated the reservoir high enough and get a big enough reservoir. And then the other thing is running living soil. The worms and the biology and just it's living, right? So shit just grows into the damn drippers. And that being said, it's not 100% because shit just grows into the damn drippers. So like it's kind of still something you got to check daily. That's part of my daily check is just kind of a hand lift on the pots. Really quickly, you'll identify whichever one isn't dripping or doing its thing, and then I've come to determine that I want to fully saturate that pot and reset the Blue Mott carrot totally to where I take it out, dunk it in the bucket, because when they go dry, you'll get an air pocket inside that carrot. So even though you resaturate the pot, it will not adjust and drip right after that. And what you'll run into is it'll flood out later on because that air isn't enough to trigger the shut off of the Blue Mott. So I mean, they're not perfect. They take some adjustment, some figuring out. I mean, if you're really wanting to mess with it, the reason I went with that over the auto pot is it was a lot less money. But I'm actually considering I want to do something like the auto pot now too. So that's just my 2 cents on it.
How much does the Blue Mott system go for?
I was about $15 a pot by the time I had it set up.
Oh, really? 15 a pop? Yeah.
I think those were like 60 or 70 a pot, right?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's probably 70, 80 here. The conversion rate's a little worse than Canada. Everything's a little more expensive compared to your prices. Like you guys were saying, the what's it called? The trim bag goes for $350 there. It's about $450 here. That's not what I paid for mine. I got it cheap and on Black Friday deals and all that shit. But
But I have a buddy that bought the auto pots too at the same time, and I really like the performance he's been getting out of them.
Yeah, the thing with the auto pots is you can't set it up for like a schedule. Like I like to turn it off at night sometimes. Like later in flower, I'll shut it off like an hour before the lights go out, and then it's got all night for the pots to dry out, and then in the morning I'll hit it at lights on with water again. just so it's not sitting there wet the whole day. Gives it a little longer to dry out. But you can't set it up to do that on like a timer or anything because it's a gravity fed system too. But we don't have to hang it from the ceiling. Like I got like a pallet, like a 6-inch pallet that I set my res on and it goes.
That was another question in chat about that too, Boom, is do you notice the top of the pot being real dry, or do you cover your pot with anything to keep that?
I don't cover the top of the pot. I do notice the top is dry. And yeah, I don't do anything about it. I don't worry about it. I don't top feed. I definitely don't try to flush from the top. So my understanding is that you're getting that wicking action, right? So all your salt buildup's going to be at the top in that dry part, right? Because everything else is going to get eaten up, and all the excess is going to be in the top. So if you try to flush your auto pots from the top, right, to try to rinse out the media, you're actually just going to wash all that dried salt into your root zone, right? So the top part's dry. That's where the salt is. It's not bioavailable at that point because it's totally dry. Is the theory, I guess.
Does the top ever get moist though, or not?
I top like for I don't veg in the auto pots, right? So I hand water and then I plant them into the auto pots to go into the flower room. So they get like a week in there to adjust. So I'll top feed the top water the first time after transplant just to get them washed in. And then you let them dry out for a couple days, still in veg, of course. And by that point, they've spread to the point, your roots should spread to the point where the autopod will take over from there. Then I engage that. They usually just get 1 feed of veg, and then I'm off to flower with them.
Drop Shot's got my mind over here fucking just smoking. He does, man. He don't even know it. He's throwing out some things in chat here, and got me thinking about kind of going like gorilla grow almost.
There's a lot of knowledge getting thrown out in chat. I haven't caught it all, but I see some pretty cool stuff coming out.
Well, he was saying that in particular, he's got basically a friend that doesn't grow intense, but this is what I'm taking away from it. He grows in like a gorilla-like room where he utilizes like a Velcro style door on like a plastic opening. You know what I mean? What I'm foreseeing here is like a 2x2 structure. You know what I mean? Structures with a Velcro like door, plastic made, homemade Velcro door, pretty much. But yeah, I'm thinking about fucking. I could get away with these tents, pulling these fucking tents down and doing like a 2x2 room, because I've got fucking 12-foot ceilings here. You know what I mean? I'm fucking myself with these fucking tents, man.
Yeah,
I could I could be fucking having bigger plants, or I could be picking them bitches up off the floor and making them a little bit easier to work on, kind of like we were talking about, or both. Or both. I could just pick them up and have bigger plants if I wanted to. But I could easily fucking build like a 2x2 wall, you know what I mean, instead of these tents, with a double black plastic barrier, and still be able to set up multi rooms with a plastic door setup like that. And I would be able to get bigger plants, and I could beef them up to instead of like a 4x8. Well, I could
You've got room to put your tents on rollers. You could have rolling tents. It'd be a first ever.
I have done. No, it's not a
It'd
first
be a
ever.
second
I
ever
actually
then.
had that. My last grow, because I was I had to grow upstairs, and then I had tents downstairs. I actually built a 4x8. Same thing. I love the pocket hole systems. You know what I mean? If you ever carpentry pocket holes, they build super strong frames, so you can build shit on flat and pocket hole and screw that shit together. So I built a fucking 2x4 frame on flat with the pocket hole system, and then I've got fucking Harbor Freight rollers. Actually, this table here is built on them old casters. Uh, but Harbor Freight, you can get them, 400-pound capacity, full ball bearing rollers with brakes, So I put 6 of those on there, but it was just 4 inches up, and you could roll that 10 around. And the main reason because it was sat in front of a garage door. And occasionally I needed to fucking open that door, so I would just unplug the light, fucking push the 10 out of the way. Sometimes at that point, pull the car in and work on it if I had to. Fucking close that door, fucking lock it up, push the tent right back to where it was, and fucking just another night and shit. So, and I've thought about doing it here, but it seems pointless. I'm thinking about going higher. I could go I could come out further, like 6 feet, and then I could go the full 12 feet up. And
they got taller tents too. You can get a extendo double XL tall tent or whatever. I don't know if they go to
$1,000. Fuck, I fucking system I'm talking about, fucking $200, $300 with plastic, and I'm fucking turnkey. I'm a carpenter, goddammit. I got saws and fucking screw guns and shit. I can do this shit in a fucking day.
I had a 6'11" tent, so I built a table for it to sit on, so I didn't have to bend over to water seedlings. It was great. The plants would grow, and they'd even veg at 2 feet tall at eye level. It was perfect. So I bought a 4x8 tent, a bigger upgrade tent, and it came. And as I'm setting it up, I realized, oh, this is 8 foot tall. I had no idea it was 8 foot tall. There was like that much room for me to try to pull the skin of the tent over the top. It took me like an hour to get that thing over the top. So it would jam up on like a little screw of the light. You'd have to jiggle it, like, motherfucker. I was going to put it right in the middle of the room. I can't put it in the middle of the room. It's got access to the back that I can't use because I can't pull it away from the wall because the bulkhead for the furnace. Man. All that.
You got me fucking daydreaming about this old setup now. Boom. Now you think since I remember in this tent and system, this whole setup used to be my it was my wood shop, my grow, the whole fucking thing. And this grow is set up just like that old shop used to be set up. You know what I mean? It was a fucking 30 by 40. And I always keep this is how I set up my wood shop. All my tools are set up at a big U along the wall, and everything's on fucking rollers. And whatever you need, you pull out and into the just like the fucking grow room. I just realized I was mimicking the same setup. Whatever you needed to work on, you pulled that tool out into the center, or you took the shit outside. If it was nice enough day, I had concrete outside. So my table saws and my router tables and everything, even my bandsaw was on a fucking roller. I could take that bitch out right outside, fucking nice sunny day, versus dirty up my shop. So that was how the tent actually, the idea for the tent. I was like, I've already got everything. Everything else is on fucking rollers, and moreover, if you want to know something even funnier. My wife at the fucking time was killing furniture. That woman couldn't fucking not move shit around all the time. A little 5-foot gal, man, just fucking hardwood furniture. She's fucking straddling that shit, pushing it around all herself. Every day you'd come home, the fucking living room would be in a different fucking position. And so I started putting all the furniture that I built, the entertainment centers, curio cabinets, all that shit on fucking casters, so that little girl could fucking rearrange the house every fucking day without pushing the fucking furniture around and racking it all on fucking out of shape. You know what I mean? Because I build nice size shit in curio cabinets, and she would be like, just fucking racking that shit every day. And I'm like, furniture isn't made to be moved fucking every day. So I got into the habit of putting fucking everything on caster. That's real life, boom. I got off on a crazy tangent there, but yeah, everything on rollers.
Yeah. It's definitely nice when you don't have to lift stuff. I like that.
I do too, man. That is a cool idea. Everything.
Mystic Marks asks, also, I hear the roots try to grow into the workings often. I don't know. Boom Firms, I'm sure it's worked through those things. No, I've never had my roots leave the auto. Like I've had like a single stray root. You know, you always get that one long worm that comes out of the auto pot, but it's never come out like. I got a buddy that's got the air pot system. I think it's like a green flood and drain bucket, and the roots will grow right through his fabric pots and plug it up like in a DWC style, like a big root plug right down into the drain. I don't get that with the auto pots. They've got like a little gold root control disc thing. Like I reuse them 3-4 times. They're $5 a disc.
How long are they in that system, though? I mean, boom. Would you think that would matter if it was something that was kept in there a lot longer? And
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, if you were starting them from a clone in there and vegging them out for, you know, now you're at 4 months in the pot instead of 2 months in the pot, maybe they'd go a little quicker. That's a good point.
so it's something to keep in mind, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, but I've only ever had the valve fail on me twice, and it's the kind of thing where you're gonna be there looking anyway, and when you're looking, you should notice like, hey, that one single plant doesn't look super healthy right now. What's going on? And sure enough, it looks a little dry. Lift that little flap and give it a tap or unscrew it, whatever you got to do.
So could those things, like, would the roots be able to wedge that open, to your knowledge, to where it could hold it and flood it?
I don't think so. No, the way it works is it's got the 2-float system, right? So
Okay.
I don't see it. No, I don't see it being a thing where you could. Even if it did, I don't think it would be a problem, really.
Good evening, Mr. Jax Greenstock. Hello, and you want to introduce yourself? And just before you get to introducing yourself, good sir, I just want to say congratulations to Mrs. Lady Jack Greenstock on her debut of her show tonight. And welcome. Where you go, Jack?
Where'd he go? Which way did he go? They can't see him.
Squirrel!
YouTube.
Squirrel!
Well, y'all be ambushing people when they log in. You guys got your shit together. I'm trying to get my headphones plugged in. Like I didn't even
What's
know
up?
talking.
What's up?
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Sorry,
we
I'm
got
filling
you.
up my water. I had to click device audio or whatever. How's everybody doing tonight?
Awesome, man.
Pretty good, pretty good. Did you hear your intro there? Did you hear me introduce you?
No, I clicked off of the YouTube, but I'll go back and watch it.
Basically, I asked you to come in and introduce yourself, and then I gave you congrats, or asked you to pass congrats on to Lady Jack Greenstock on her debut of her show today.
Yeah, I really enjoyed listening into that. The ladies panel was a good time. I'm glad that she enjoyed herself, and I got to listen in and learn about some of the other women in cannabis. I think you can never give them enough spotlight. They haven't been given their time quite yet, so it's nice to see not just Lady Greenstock, but a whole bunch of women in cannabis really shine and share their stories. A lot like what we're doing over here.
I agree. Talent comes from everywhere. It would be stupid not to let the women in on this.
Shit, the women are better at sprouting seedlings and taking clones, in my opinion. Something natural that, I don't know, seems like guys aren't good at.
I know I'm not very good at either of those things. And on the panel, that was like 3 or 4 of the ladies' favorite things to do was like taking clones. So I think you may be right on that. And I think there's just a lot of very talented women that garden in general, but especially with cannabis, we grow the female variety predominantly. Most people kill off the males, and we celebrate the female cannabis plant a lot more than the male cannabis plant. So it's nice to see females working with the female plant and having acceptance and, you know, gaining a place in the community that they've had for a long time. But often, like, I think the main reason we didn't see more women in cannabis was if there was a couple back in the day and they had kids, you know, the husband would sort of take the fall for the grow, and then the wife would be around to take care of the kids still. But now, if it's legal, they can both be involved sort of openly and not have to worry about their kids getting taken away from them.
Yeah, that's cool.
How's the Q&A been going? Have we been getting tons of questions from the chat?
I started out with a bang. They've been kind of chatting amongst themselves. There's a few people in chat answering a bunch of questions.
Shout out to Double Tap and Misty's Nugs and the rest of the regulars. Good to see everybody.
That's cool.
Shit, I'm just catching where you said you want me to join the Zoom. Mr. Jack, I see you
It's all
flashing in
good.
the corner.
Yeah.
Flashing in the corner.
Yeah, I know there's actually a female gardener in the area for me that just last year won, or the bud she produced won. It was like a Grower's Choice Award. It was just a random thing at an event, but they had some nugs and entered it and ended up winning. So it was
Miss
fire.
Nudie Grows. Shout out to Miss Nudie Grows of the Hydro Hustlers panel. She occasionally comes on growing with my fellow growers, and she's just a Canadian cannabis grower. She grows both commercially and home grow like Spartan. And she actually took second place in the 4 Plants Cup up in Canada. Everybody can grow their 4. And she had a jelly bean that was pretty fire. It looked good. And apparently everybody else agreed because, I mean, getting second place, I don't know how many entries there were. I think it was like 25 plus maybe. I don't know exactly how many samples went around, but everybody sort of got to sample each other's. I think they all sent in an ounce and then it got split up. They can legally send samples to each other in Canada. But yeah, I'm hoping to get her on the ladies panel because I think she could really represent well and would be a good addition to that panel as well. And she proved it. I mean, that's a blind taste test and she won second place. It's pretty damn good.
Yeah, it is.
Thank you, Date Grower. Yes, I am on top chatting yet. All right.
I like Jay Diz's comment. I never hit weed and said, yuck, a woman grew that? Like, yeah, right.
DJ Short wrote in his book that he felt female and women gardeners were just better cannabis growers across the board in his experience. And I think it's
They
because
have a better sense of smell. Yeah.
and just I think they're oftentimes less ego driven sometimes, and like they're willing to accept if something went wrong and try and improve upon it, or like take like a critique. Like if you listen to Canna Queen's episode, she talked about she was posting her early grows, and some people would kind of like be negative, but some people would be constructive, and she would take that feedback and really just run with it. And it shows if you're like receptive to feedback growing online, even as a new grower, you can go from like not knowing what you're doing at all to growing like pretty well to growing like really damn well in a pretty short period of time if you just take advice from people that actually know what they're doing and point you in the right direction.
You know, I'm kind of, I don't know how to say this without putting my foot in my mouth. I'm not like stereotypical or anything like that. I really believe the ladies have a lot of knowledge to bring. Okay. And I'm susceptible to taking in that knowledge from a woman grower. No big deal to me at all. You know, I don't see the difference in anything. But maybe it was me being stupid, or just silly in the first episode of this woman growers panel thing today, and it might just have been the little kid in me. But the announcer, I don't know who was the announcer today. Who was the gentleman that kind of
Brandon Rust.
narrated? Brandon
Brandon.
Rust.
He runs the commercial facility out in Oklahoma, Majestic Craft Cannabis. He used to live here in San Diego, and he's had terpenes tested at 12% in dry flower. One of the best organic cultivators I've ever met.
That's amazing. But there was just one thing, and like I said, it was probably just the school kid in me that made me laugh at the beginning of the show. And I guess maybe it was just me being overly sensitive because it was like women, you know what I mean? The panel there, and I don't know. It's probably more or less me being stupid nonetheless. But he introduced himself in the panel and everything, and then he says, it was just the way he said it, I guess. He says, is there any, and I'm not hitting it word for word, I'm paraphrasing here. He says, is there any subject or anything you guys want to fucking like pop out with, or first off? And it's just the way he said, you want any of your talents you guys want to pop off with? And I don't know, it just the wording and the reference of it being women, it just kind of said, I don't know, it put a fucking weird picture in my head. It was like, I don't know, any of you girls just want to show us your breasts or something like that. I don't know. It was weird. How he worded it, I got a chuckle out of it, but I don't know. I enjoyed the show though. It was just that initial, I'll have to go back and listen to it again. It was just the way he worded it. I got an initial chuckle out of it. Like, really? Did he really just kind of worded that? It was because it was all women. It was weird choice of words, I guess.
Where I think he's from, in like the eastern part of San Diego, they have sort of a interesting dialect. I'm from the Midwest, and I guess people would say we have an interesting dialect. People laughed at me when I'd come out here and say pop, talking about what Eagle is probably just sipping on. But out here they call it soda, and they make fun of me for calling it pop until you say, well, it's soda pop. So it's like just regional and depending on where you're at. So I don't know.
They make fun of the way you talk, eh? I know what that's like.
Oh yeah, like I said,
if
it was totally the school kid in me. If it would have been a panel full of nothing but guys there, and he's like, so which one you guys want to fucking pop off with a subject or something like that, I would have probably not even thought nothing of it. But since it was a panel of girls and just the way he said it, it just kind of was.
Hey, he's not treating them any different. He's treating them like equals. There you go. He's not talking down. He's talking to them just like they're one of us.
No. I wasn't. I didn't. I'm not, saying it was a bad thing or nothing. It just.
I know. I think you got
caught
the
me
idea
off
in your
guard.
head that he was like saying something about like flashing, or somehow that reference made you think of
Yeah,
something.
like I said, it was
Maybe
totally
mind
the
is just
school
in the
kid
gutter.
in me. Oh, I'm sure it was.
It's all right. We still love you.
It usually is, but it wasn't.
Mine too.
It wasn't nothing to do with the show though. I don't know. Just listen to the beginning of it and see if you can pick out what I'm talking about there when you get a chance. I think you'll catch it. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about when you hear it. I don't know. Maybe I'm being stupid, but I did. I did get a chuckle out of it. That's straight up.
I actually missed the first like second or whatever. I caught like the live thing. I was at work and I had to listen while I was like on hike, just with like one earphone in. But
it's
so
within
I
the
didn't even
first
hear
2
that
minutes.
section. Yeah,
it's within the first 2 minutes. The rest of it, it was a great show. I seriously enjoyed it, but it was like within the first couple minutes, and I was like, I don't know. The school kid in me, I was like cracking up a little bit.
Hey, speaking about accents, Charlie's Farm. What are you doing over there? How you doing, bud? I haven't seen you in a while. I don't think if we've ever even formally talked before, but I always love watching your episodes, man. You're doing good stuff over there, and I'm happy that you're in the position you're in and you know the people you know, because shit, it's a good thing you are where you are and doing what you're doing.
Thanks, Jack. It's a pleasure to meet you. No, I don't think we've ever talked before either. And yeah, you always have some good stuff in chat. You're one of the regulars. I was like, I'd love to be able to meet these guys. Love to be able to meet these guys. Thanks for all the kind words, the questions.
If any of you guys are ever in San Diego, hit me up. I'd be more than happy to meet up and smoke with you. And if I'm ever around your parts, I'll let you know. We'll smoke.
Yeah, no doubt. Anytime you're at the East Coast, anywhere from DC all the way up to Maine, I'd come and meet anybody. I go to New York too to meet some people sometimes. So anytime, that'd be awesome.
How you doing, Boom?
They open up the country again.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah, doing good up here. Yeah, this is my first time on with both you guys too. I don't think we've talked before either, Charlie.
No, I don't think so either.
Smiley's on every time I'm on. That guy's in there every night.
Unofficial, official co-host Smiley in the house.
Oh yeah, this works out, man. It's like perfect timing for me, so I enjoy doing it too. I'm very blessed to do it. I guess it's cool to hang out, meet so many new people, man. I can't wait till we can all hang out again.
Yeah.
Especially in crowd and people local. It's cool.
I love busting Eagle's chops to try and keep him on for another 40 minutes while you're driving home from work. Like, hey, Smiley's on his way, man. Just hang in there, play a little music for us, and smoke one.
I know. I'm like speeding
Keep
down
it
the
going,
highway.
man.
Oh,
I could
man.
put it in my phone, but that'd be stupid. I don't know.
Now that you've mentioned that, Jack, I haven't seen Aldridge 25. I hope Aldridge 25 came back after that night. I was just joking with Aldridge that night. Did you see that?
I missed it totally, I guess.
I was just playing with Aldridge 25. I hope you're here, Aldridge 25, by the way.
Yeah, won one of the seats though, right?
I'd have to look at my paper. I don't think
Oh,
so.
all right.
But Jack was in chat that night, and I was kind of like fucking, just wasting some time. And I kind of, at one point, I was like, well, if nobody jumps on, then I'm just going to fucking go to work. And Aldridge 25 said, please somebody come on. And she was, they were throwing the prayer hands and shit. And I kind of, I knew that they were referencing, kind of so the show would keep going on. But I was messing with them going, what? You guys don't like me just hanging out or what? You guys got to have Smiley here? And I think they took a load. They're like, no, that's not what we're trying to say. And I was like, oh, sure. There's always got to be somebody else. But I don't know if I've seen them since. I thought I'd seen them.
No, I'm sure it's fine. That's funny though.
I love Chad. You guys are fucking awesome.
It carries the show. I mean, Lexi looks forward to the chat, and you guys talk about it outside the show. That's how good it is.
That girl thinks she's something. She does love all the attention in chat. She really does. She talks about a lot of who she likes. In fact, she asked me tonight. She said, "Who's on tonight?" And I said, "Well, Boom Farms and Smiley and Charlie's Farm and Jack's Greenstock, and I believe Sergeant Pepper's supposed to be stopping in." She's like, "Ooh, those are some of my favorites." Sounds like it's gonna be a good show. Like,
you got the super group tonight.
Appreciate it. So Jack, I gotta ask, you got your plan A for your test garden. So if things don't go as planned, what would be plan B for you?
Well, I mean, as far as like the commercial operation or my home grow?
The commercial, like you got that soil in mind, and you were talking about the M3 running for the test one. So if that don't work out, I mean, what would be your plan B maybe?
So we have, like I said, there's a local one, and then if neither of those worked, I'd probably go with like Brandon's got a really good mix using Big Roots as a base. I really trust the Soil King, Patrick King, especially even more so now after hearing the experience. Kinios for Eagle over there. It's like kin, like your kinfolk, and then like EO, Kinios. I just got my seeds from them, by the way, and a badass little pamphlet showing off all their stuff. Their experience that they had with the Soil King when they went there really like made me like and appreciate him even more. Like I respect his product because the whole for growers by growers and like actually like meaning it and standing behind it and putting out clean, good quality tested product, and like to see it crushing at Majestic Craft Cannabis. Brandon got a truckload or a pallet, bunch of it shipped to him, and he adds other stuff like bokashi and things like that. So I'd probably lean on his recipe a bit. He has open sourced it, made it public, and he has his own like microbe boosts and things like that, as well as his bokashi. And I think there's a lot of options. It's just really like finding one that's affordable and sustainable. I think local would probably be best, but if it's not as good, then I really do think the M3 mix is just like something special, man. There's something, not enough people run vermiculite in organic soil. Like the amount of silica it provides simply and easily, and the water retention. I think there's so many positive qualities to it, and people just overlook it as a part of their soil amendments oftentimes.
Jack, that's funny you say that. I just actually, it's probably similar because I've heard you mention him, but Bruce Bugby. I was listening to his soil mix in one of the videos, and he goes through their whole nutrient, and that's actually what they use is the vermiculite for their source of silica.
And peat.
Yeah.
They use the same exact thing that M3 is using, and Bugby has been doing a lot of science. So the fact that they're using peat and vermiculite as the base of their mix, and the M3 uses those two exact same things, tells me that the science is supporting exactly what I'm witnessing and seeing. Like the growth, the plants are so healthy. The silica that's provided by the vermiculite, like my plants are like rubber when you're training them. Like they're just so vigorous and healthy. Bend them over, and I've had that in cocoa as well. I mean, you can definitely get a healthy plant in any setup, but when you're just giving water in a soil and it grows well and it produces well, it's not like I'm having horrible yields. Like it produces plentiful, good-looking bud that's extremely clean, smoke. So I'm just really hoping that it works well at scale. I don't have any reason to believe otherwise. I've seen it at pretty large greenhouse operations in Michigan and some other places have success. So hoping to emulate that on in our little plot that we've got.
No, definitely. I
there-
think it's successful. My question is like, what do you think about like latent flower? If you were adding a silica, you typically remove that from the regimen, but you're not going to be able to pull vermiculite out of the soil. And is that ever going to be a problem, do you think, or would be issue at the end smoke?
See, I don't think it's like a chelated version or whatever. Like when you get like one of those like Elite 91, whatever, like the super concentrated silicas that's immediately available. When it's in the vermiculite, I think it's sort of like how the plant uptakes nutrients. I would imagine it has similar uptake of the silica. I don't know if exudates have any, like if it puts out exudates to get the silica in the vermiculite, or if it's just uptaken in a different pathway. That's some science that I haven't dug into quite yet. But I will say, just from the experience of like the end user, the smoke has never come out like bad in the bud quality, like when you're trimming it. I've heard some people, well, what's the common complaint with if there's too much silica, that the flavor is not going to be good?
Yeah, I would imagine so. I guess I've never thought about it, but that whole comment about vermiculite, I actually have a soil mix I got to do here coming up, and that's why I'm considering adding it. But that was just kind of the internal debate on certain things. I don't know, and I don't know either. So I just was asking, throwing it out there.
Is
So-
that something, Jack, that you're going to be able to re-amend and reuse, or is that going to be a new soil every time, a new bag every time?
We're going to re-amend and reuse. We are going to have a compost pit on site, and we're going to do worm bins as well. So we're going to be able to supercharge it. And the thing is, we have a Tangelo orchard that's right in front of the farm. So like the front half of the farm is a Tangelo orchard, and the back half of the farm is going to be a cannabis farm. And we'll use some of like the leaf material and even some of the citrus. You have to compost it more than like give it to a vermiculite or the worm bin. I don't think worms like a lot of citrus, but having those and it's all organic. Part of the reason we got the license was, like I said, I don't know if I told the story or not, but when he was taking care of the Tangelos, he had everything like the pesticide applicators come in and use only organic everything and did everything by the book, even though he didn't really have to. Like it was his private property. It wasn't like a big commercial thing, and he just took really good care of it. So thankfully, we have a nice, clean source, and like everything that's on our property is, not having issues with spray. And on top of that, we're not growing in like the ground or native soil. We're going to have like tables. We're going to be in pots, and it's going to be, I think, pretty replicatable. We're going to try our best to keep the soil. We're going to do soil testing between each run and see how much like nitrogen is missing and re-amend some of that specific, like worm castings is a good source of nitrogen, for example. So we're going to be working with agronomists and doing it very as high science as we can.
Just because you brought him up, Patrick will be here next week to speak with us and hang out.
That's awesome. You're honestly like, I love all the different guests that you're getting from breeders to people like, I really like the T-Dog the Artist episode, man. That was fucking awesome. He's a cool dude and his art's amazing, and just such a wide variety of great guests. I've been loving the show.
That's what I was talking to say too. You're the man at getting people on, dude. It's fucking unreal. It's been mind blowing.
I've been talking to T-Dog today about maybe doing like a logo for the show. Now, I don't want to no branding for myself, but I'm thinking about doing a branding for getting some type of branding for the show now. And another cool person, you guys may or may not know. God, you guys make me feel old when I talk about shit like this. Old Canada grower I got a hold of today that I've been trying to get him for a while now, and he got back today and said, fuck yeah, let's do this. And I was like, fuck yeah. Was Jason Wilcoxon will be coming on. He was fucking one of the first pioneers that really were on YouTube, not just showing grow videos, but quality grow videos, tech grow videos, technical terms. It wasn't just, grow how to do this or whatever. He was actually trying to teach the science of growing as he was going. And it was very insightful back in the day. And he laid off for quite some time, and then he's kind of re-emerged a little bit with the cannabis in Canada lately. But I'm stoked about getting him on as well. That's going to be a great night too.
It's cool to pull these people back into the community. Like when Fada Mike, his page got shut down, and I think you were the first person to have him publicly come back on since, like, I think he's maybe done a few YouTube videos, but they were like over a year ago, and he hasn't done much recently at all. And you got him on, and I think that's what got Kineos Genetics came on shortly after. And that was actually my introduction to both of them. Like, no disrespect to either of them, I just hadn't heard of them before. And I was actually so impressed that I, went and picked up a pack because I saw Fada Mike killing it with that berry lights. So I got a pack of berry lights. It looked amazing from every description that they gave. I was like, I feel like when you hear someone talk about something that they have that passion, and you go and check out their garden, you can just tell when somebody's really 100% all in, and like they're smelling that smell. They're not just saying it to like sell you a pack. Like they're actually living that in their garden. And I figured they definitely deserve the shot, and they gave me a nice deal, so I couldn't pass it up. And it was super cool to have that interaction through this show, essentially, to meet both of them and get to interact with both of them in social media afterwards.
I was really bummed out today. They had like an auction of like Subcool F2s they had reproduced, and they were like 10 packs. There was like 30 seeds in all they were giving away, auctioning off. In the last bid that I bid 45, and then I had seen just past time. They were like half hour to go, and it was like $45. somebody had just outbid me, so I wish that'd have been a nice score of 30 beans right there. I could have divided up and passed along to some good folks on the show. I'm gonna keep my eye out for their next auction there too. I think there's like 3 more they're gonna have over there. Some cool replicas. So I think I'm gonna keep my eye out for that and try to score some just to pass out to the people on, for the show. Little contest beans.
Hey, just get back to that vermiculite question that you were asking about, Jack, or Smiley was asking about.
Yeah.
You're doing completely organic, straight organic inputs, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
You're triggering the plant to only uptake what it needs when it needs it. Towards the end of its life, it's not going to need the silica. It's going to know it. It's not going to put its energy into taking up any more silica. It shouldn't be. Just like any other need. When you're in synthetics, you're forcing it down its throat. It's going to take up whatever you're giving it. So, I don't use silica. I have, but I actually have a bottle I was thinking about putting in again for a couple of strains, but that's different. You got to cut it out right before they hit peak at, week 5. I used to take it out, but in your organic inputs, it should be not taking up towards the end of its life. It's just going to shut down whatever it doesn't need. It's going through its natural cycle.
If you use the right pot size with organic soil and you have a good mix, like whether it's Coots mix, Subcool Super Soil, the M3 mix, the Build a Soil recipe, the Kiss Organics recipe, there's so many good ones out there. If you get the right pot size and you transplant up, or even if you just give it enough root space and or watering it properly, in organics, like you said, it just sort of, it's got everything there. It's got a buffet of nutrients that it needs. The plant puts out the exudates that it wants. Oh, I want nitrogen. I'm going to put out exudates for nitrogen. The microbes break that down, that blood meal in the soil. Now I got some nitrogen immediately available. It greens it back up, keeps it growing. Then later in flower, as it's finishing up, the plant naturally senesces and it gets this beautiful fade like every single time. If I put it in the right pot size, I always get that super beautiful fade. And I just think it's a little bit harder to like trigger that with a synthetic recipe. It's not impossible. I definitely see people doing it, and I've been able to do it myself. I just think with organic, it's a little bit easier for most people, at least for myself. If you're just giving it water the entire time. Subcool used to say, "I'm flushing the plant the whole time."
Absolutely, and then the right pot size is key, because once you get that soil dialed in, whatever recipe you're using, that plant, by the end of it, it's going to use everything that's in that pot. It's going to be nothing left in the end anyway, because you're going to have it so dialed in that it's just the right amount of inputs that it's going to be completely used up, stripped from the soil already from the plant.
No, I appreciate that you said that, because that's true to a certain extent, where like in a biological system, you can hold nutrients inside the biology in that soil. So it definitely would matter, how functional that biology is too. But it's true.
Well, and I'd say that it's not using maybe 100% of what's in the soil. Maybe it's using a good amount of it, enough to get itself to that point where it can have that senescence and that like fall and like death. It's every plant it's a 1-year plant. It's not meant to, like in nature, cannabis doesn't stay around for multiple years. It knows the winter is coming. It's going to drop its leaves and drop its seeds and try and put out its stuff for the next year. And I think that it sort of, when it runs out of food, it's sort of thinking, okay, well, I guess this is my time. My time is coming. So I need to trigger that effect and do my best to eat up all my, I think that senescence is partially triggered because if you think about like in a human, if you lock a human in a freezer, the first thing that their body does is send the heat away from their hands and their feet to the vital organs, mainly your genitalia. For like a male, it's the testicles, female, it's their ovaries. And with a plant, as it's starving, as you let it die out in that soil, it's not going to protect its leaf, because the leaf is there to promote photosynthesis. It's going to protect its sex organ. And if it's unpollinated or pollinated, it's going to want to keep that bud as healthy as possible. So it's going to commit as much effort to keeping that part as healthy as possible, as long as possible. So that's why I think when they say, oh, we tested bud that was flushed versus blood that was unflushed, and they both had the same amount of nutrient content, it's like, but did you test the leaf? Because if one's completely green and one is yellow or purple and faded, I'm going to assume that the yellow and purple faded out one is going to smoke a little bit smoother, in my experience, across the board, where
This is
the one that's completely green still comes across as a little bit more harsh.
This is my thoughts on flushing it, and I'm open to this plenty of open discussion here. I don't, I'm not feeding in large amounts towards the last end of flower there, and I believe the plant's only taking up what it needs at that point. And so if there's anything bad in the soil, especially if you were growing in a soil or dirt or whatever, if there were any heavy minerals being taken up by the plant, you're not going to flush those heavy minerals back out of the plant. No matter how much water you throw it out, you're not going to flush out heavy minerals out of that plant. You might flush out extra nutrients, but not the heavy minerals that are in it. So with that being said, it's only taking up what it needs at that phase in life, which at the end of flower is very minimum. So even if it does have some nutrients left in its system, I kind of, again, this is my next thought in the process. When you cut a rose and you take it and you put, you're into its next step, you can keep it alive and put it in water with a little bit of nutrients and it will bloom out further. It can still possibly take up nutrients and bloom for some time. So in my mind, any nutrients that after you cut that branch and you're hanging it, that flower's still doing something. You know what I mean? It's still alive at that point. There's still processes being had in the flower there as it's dying off, because it's not dead until it's completely dry. So I think any nutrients that might be caught up in that bud or in that stick that's still there might be burned up in the drying process and in its last chances of life. What do you guys' thoughts on that?
I can confirm one part of that for sure. It's chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is definitely lost in the cure. You can look at that. There's people that are like real experts. There's that guy in Michigan, actually, John Carlos Canagar. He cures the chlorophyll straight out of the leaf so that there's zero chlorophyll in it. He uses cannabis and hemp leaf to make these beautiful cannabis cigars with absolutely zero chlorophyll in them. And they're extremely smooth smoking by all accounts. I haven't had the chance to try one yet, but he's from like a 5 or 6 generation, like Nicaraguan, like tobacco curing and like rolling family. And they use these techniques and transition them over into the cannabis space. And with curing, I've noticed like with like people that talk about the freeze dried buds versus like herbs now versus like hang dry. I think some of the stuff in the herbs now, if you get it that very first day or two, it's still going to have that like greener taste, where if you like dry it and let it cure in your jar, that the chlorophyll definitely breaks down. It's a VOC, or volatile organic compound. That's one of the big problems with the hemp. You see those big marshmallow roll-ups that they're doing on those big hemp fields where they chop it all down with a tractor and they wrap it up in that big white sack. Well, a lot of that shit gets turned straight to black bud rot and mold, because when they put it in there with too much moisture, it's off-gassing chlorophyll. It's off-gassing so much shit that is just being stuck in that bag. And it's not, imagine like if we harvested our whole crop and just stuck it in a jar and never burped it. That's basically what they're doing with that hemp. And the chlorophyll is one of the more damaging and disgusting smelling of the volatile organic compounds. When you cut your grass and you get that sort of fresh grass smell, that's often found in the earlier parts of the cure. And some people get like a hay smell as well.
That's the chlorophyll you're smelling. You're absolutely right, Jack. That's what you're smelling, is the chlorophyll. That's that hay smell. That's what that curing process is all about. Because you want that bud to get down to pure carbon, because that's what you're smoking. You want that carbon. Watch Clean Genes. He's got a whole couple of real in-depth talks about exactly what's in that end product that you're smoking or processed. And you've got to get the chlorophyll out of it. I have a friend that has that 80,000 square feet. He uses the columbine. I watched his process. You can see it on Instagram, Southie Adams. Horrible. He processes it. It's just hemp. He's got the only outdoor mass. Uses a mini columbine, puts it in the sacks, but then they just immediately blend it up into a friggin', almost like a pulp, the whole plant. And they're processing it all into CBD to make it drinks for the shelves and everything else. Even though we
So
can
my
complete organic, it makes me wonder about that. What you just, your point right there about, you're just using it right away. Where's all that chlorophyll? Still in the plant.
So am I to understand that the point of the cure is to get the chlorophyll out, and that's where the taste is coming from? Because my opinion, the long term, we've talked here, me and Smiley, several times about the benefits of a long term cure and how the different flavors come out in a long term cure. And I don't believe, from what you guys are saying, that it's the chlorophyll that's dispersed that is bringing out the new flavors in it. I think it's more along of the VOCs that are breaking up in the jar and mixing with each other, and it's that new like smell that's being embedded into the bud that kind of brings out the new flavor profiles, not necessarily the loss of chlorophyll. The broken down
It's a
process of
combination.
chlorophyll.
It's a combination of both. So what you're seeing is earlier in the cure, there's some very, very, terpenes are aggressive. They're used in cleaning agents like floor cleaners. Pine sol, the reason that they use pinene and limonene, they're extremely effective cleaners. So when you get a fresh harvested bud that has the maximum amount of terpenes, if you test it day 1 versus day 15, there's going to be more terpenes day 1, but it's extremely harsh on your throat because it's just not, there's so much, not just the chlorophyll, but the other earlier terpenes, some of them are a little bit harsher on your throat, where often those are the lighter ones. I think they're like mono, sesqua, and diterpenes, like 5 carbon, 10 carbon, and 20 carbon. And with that, I think what you're experiencing when you pop that lid off that jar and you smell it, those terpenes have already volatilized off the bud and you're inhaling it and they're lost. You can see that in lab tests. Each time you open up the jar, you go from like a 2% terpene flower on day 1 to like 1.95 to like 1.9 to 1.85 over a month or over a few weeks. So what's happening is you're losing some of those terpenes that account for some of that flavor and smell, and it creates a new profile. I think that's a little bit, it could be like marinating within the flower while it's in there. It off gases from the trichome into the jar and then reabsorbs back either into the trichome again or into the flower. It's like hard to speculate on what exactly would be going on. I definitely do agree with you that during a long cure, the flavors do change. And I'm going to have a lot better experience with that now that I'm going to have that curador coming, because I've kept stuff for a year for the last 5 or 6 years now. And I sample a little bit of the bud, like at a month, at 2 months, at 3 months, at 5 months. And by the 1 year mark, when we have everything at 420, it's always usually like kind of like yellowed and a little bit more CBN. But with the curador, with the temperature not rising and keeping it in that proper range, I'm curious how the long cure will go without losing as much of the terpenes.
I don't think the VOCs and the new mix of the terpenes, the terpenes coming out and mixing together in the VOC style is all 100%. I don't think it gets into the terpenes. I think or the trichomes themselves. I think that that it progresses a natural breakdown of the trichome itself. But I do believe that, and I compared it to a gym bag the other night, that that new smell that is created from the trap of the off gassing does, because it's an organic porous material, soak up that new smell and flavor. Because it's just like a gym bag. You can take clean clothes, you can take some dirty clothes, you can take some fucking dirty socks and lock them up in that gym bag. And because it's a porous organic material, fucking everything is gonna, it's gonna become one after a week in that gym bag. Them clean clothes are gonna slightly stink like socks. It's gonna make one smell, and everything's gonna smell like it because it's somewhat porous. And I think that's exactly what's going on in the jars. They're creating their own new smell and flavor, and then it's just kind of pushed back into the bud.
See, where I agree with you, if it's all the same variety, it sort of homogenizes, but I've kept different varieties in the same jar. So if I have a Girl Scout cookie and an OG, two different varieties completely different varieties, and I stick them in the same jar, they're not going to taste the same. If I smoke them separately, you can see like a forum cut Girl Scout cookie is black. It's so dark. And then you got your OG Kush, which is like a lime green. And
well, because it's not under pressure, you're never going to get it to, get to the center of the bud. So the original flavor profile is going to be in there somewhere, unless
well, I'm
it's
saying even
under
if you
some type
chop
of
them at the
pressure.
same day and put them in the same jar during the cure, I think that you would be able to distinguish one genetic from the other. I think that it does homogenize a bit, and they might make an impact on each other. But like even the same variety, my tops don't taste the same as my shoulders. My shoulders don't taste the same as my larf, even if I put it all in the same jar.
Yeah, because they're oxidizing. There's no question. I agree with a little bit of both. I mean, Jack, you're right on point. That chlorophyll, that they're all oxidizing, and that fruit is still ripening in that jar. They're still maturing, those trichomes and those terpenes. Even though you might get a stronger smell at harvest, they're still not at their perfect maturation point until they've had a certain cure. Each strain is different, but it's bonding with that oxygen. That's why you got to get that chlorophyll. I mean, that's why curing is so important. It's actually one of the most important towards the end. Is it's going to bond to not only just to the oxygen molecule, it's going to change the color of your bud and the profile of your terpene, but the bacteria that are in the air as well that get into that jar, they also help with the breakdown and the maturing of the trichome itself, because that head is in that perfect ripeness until it's had the right cure and that moisture level. That's the key as well, because that's what it's bonding to. That water that's being created, those water molecules in the jar bonding with the chlorophyll molecule that's off gassing and oxidizing, and the terpenes, and that's why it's key to open that jar to get those fresh bacteria and oxygen molecules in there in order for the whole process to take place. Sorry.
I think it has to do with being an anaerobic process, and
Right.
I think up until then, you're basically equalizing the moisture in the bud and the stem to a low enough water activity where no mold or anything can take place. And then I think when you go into a cure and you're actually doing a long cycle of a seal in a jar, you're activating an anaerobic process in that. And I think that's why it takes them, in my experience, it's about at minimum a 4 to 6 week process. And then it's like in that range, all of a sudden you'll notice this dramatic change in the smell of the jar. And when you smoke it and everything it's more dramatic in certain ones from what I've had experience with than others. And some of them get less as they get older too. But there's certain ones that, like phenos that I've hunted out, different sisters or whatever, and say it was the one I didn't pick, and I've had a 1/4 ounce of that sitting around in a jar, and like you smoke it and you're like, holy shit, man, I don't know why I didn't pick this one. This is badass. I don't remember it being this badass, but it's badass. So there definitely is a process that happens. I love this.
TJ Short talks about his like Vanna Luna that he doesn't like to smoke because it's too heady until it's 2 years into its cure, and then it's his favorite bud. He's like, oh, it's my absolute favorite, but you got to wait 2 years. And I'm like, that's not a great selling point for your seeds, but people love you anyway, so they'll probably buy it. But like, man, 2-year cure, that's some serious business.
And Jack, would you agree with that statement about like if you want to know if your dry is good, try to long-term cure and keep some bud around? You'll figure
I definitely think everyone should try it because I think every variety is different. Like my strawberry daiquiri, I really liked it early into the cure. It tasted so good fresh. It was like just way better fresh than it was even at like a month. And I had different jars that I kept sealed versus ones that like I do a little sample of at least one jar to see like what's it like at a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks into that cure to see where I like it most, because ultimately I don't give a damn what the lab tests say. I care about my own personal experience. It's like if it tastes good to me at 4 weeks, then I'm going to write that down and say, okay, I like this variety at 4 weeks into the cure. And then some of them 6 weeks or a month or 2 months. Like sometimes 2 months I find is like really, really good for some stuff, but 1 month is really good for other stuff. And Sub always talks about he would keep stuff for like 10 months and longer. And I typically haven't loved the stuff that's aged unless it's something I really want to like be sedating. Because a lot of stuff I like is daytime smoke. A lot of people would say it's more uplifting or like flavorful. And a lot of those like really enjoyable notes I think are fresher, like on fresh bud, like it's stickier, terpier, but like older bud seems like it sometimes gets a little bit overly dried. I think a big part of the cure is definitely the water activity level. Because like if it's so harsh that you're hacking up a lung because there's so much water in it, it's just not enjoyable to smoke, whether it's the chlorophyll or the water or whatever. You just got to get it to that proper low enough moisture level. Hopefully the chlorophyll's gone and there's enough terpenes and THC and cannabinoids left around to get you where you want to go.
I just want to state a couple of things while we've got a little bit of a pause here, because I do want to pause this conversation and not change it. One, boom, I want some of your fucking edibles. Two, I fucking appreciate this cannabis community so fucking much, man. Just because I'm sitting here, I'm looking at the numbers, 64 right now, 3 o'clock in the fucking morning. I can't think of anything else that anything else in the world other than cannabis that can pull 64 fucking people together at 3 o'clock in the fucking morning. I mean, if you were drinking right now with fucking a bunch of buddies, I doubt you could get 64 fucking people together to go, hey, let's learn something at fucking 3 o'clock in the morning. That ain't happening. But we got 64 fucking great people here smoking some cannabis, wanting to fucking enlighten their fucking minds. And I think that's fucking awesome. I'm sorry.
Well,
Go back to
and just imagine, I want to say one more thing about that. My buddy Shane from the Cheap Home Grow, he said like when you look at the analytics and you see like even like a day or two after, you get like 3, 4, even like sometimes 600 or 700 views. One of these things, it's like, okay, it's just a number on a screen. But imagine you walked out of like a hydro store and there was 300 or 400 people waiting there like, hey man, I listened to your show. I love listening to your show. We all love your show. Like we're all your fans. Just like people have those meetups and people travel. And as your show gets bigger, eventually you're going to be going to these cups when things start opening back up again. And you're going to be not just seeing 1 or 2 people, but like crowds of people. Like, shit, I listen to your show all the time. And it's crazy the community that is built. And it's a lot bigger than it seems. And not only is it 3 a.m., it's midnight for me. And then there's people in Australia and Germany and can't like all over the world listening in different time zones currently here. And then there's going to be people listening right when they wake up tomorrow morning and all the way throughout the day. So it's quite amazing the community that we have on. Thankful for YouTube in that regard. Despite the purge a few years ago, I think they're if we label it adult content, they're leaving us alone for the most part and letting us host stuff like this, which is a great educational tool.
I agree with that too, Jack, because there are some great shows. Even like, I don't know, like I just love hearing about growers talking over in UK too. You know, it's a different scene than what we're used to over here, and like they talk about different shit, and it's interesting. You know,
I love the Growing with My Fellow Lads panel on Cheap Home Grow. It's the UK version of like Growing with My Fellow Growers. And they're always talking about like no sell, no smell, no tell. You can't tell anybody, you can't sell it to anybody, and you can't fucking have it smell because you'll get busted and your ass will get taken to jail still. And I think all of us, I don't know, I might be mistaken in this, but I think every single one of us is in a legal territory where we can all legally grow the plant.
don't take that for granted. I think there's some people in chat too that are in red states. You know, and shout out, man. Hopefully it changes. So.
And don't be afraid to advocate. I used to go to council meetings before it was legal here in California, and I tried my best. And despite my efforts, we kind of got shut down. I was trying to lobby for like people's rights to grow in greenhouses and outdoors, and to have access to delivery for medical patients everywhere, which thankfully we got. We lobbied for home grow. I wasn't a big proponent of Prop 64, but the fact that it allows people to all grow 6 plants if you're over 21, that's a big win for California and any state. If you're in a red state, I would say don't bite for legalization if it doesn't include home growing. It should be part of your rights, and it's a pivotal part of legalization. If it's not that, they're basically just having a monopoly, and they're going to tax the hell out of you, and it's going to be extremely expensive, and you're going to be stuck with the same street people that you used to go to, more than likely.
Before I was I was legally, I could grow. I fucking grew that shit, and I was a big advocate for it. One of my good friends, Charles Schneider, was one of the fucking driving forces in getting Michigan medically legal, and it's fucking awesome. You know what I mean? I would have done the same fucking things I did all over again. I'd do it all over again to push this shit along.
Boom, where are you at on the whole flush thing? We talked about that, and I think that was where we left off. Maybe did we go to another topic after that?
Yeah, I do a 14 to a 21 day flush in cocoa. Yeah. So my
Do you
first
monitor your runoff ppm at all? Like, do you try to get it down like below 50 ppm or 100 ppm or a certain EC or anything like that?
I don't have runoff because I'm in the autopot system, so I just let it leach. You know, that's why I go 21 days, really let it leach out. But no, there's no runoff, so I couldn't really test it. And I was saying earlier in the show before you popped in, if you did top water the autopots, the way the wicking action happens, that's where all your salt buildup is in the dry part at the top. So if you get that wet, now it becomes bioavailable again.
I just want
Interesting to hear you run the autopot.
Saying.
Sorry, Eagle, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I had a fucking brain fart in the middle of that. A lot of fucking people don't realize back when I did grow before it was legal here, and I had, you know, like I said, my friend Charles helped push it illegally here in Michigan. But a lot of people don't realize that something else on my credit here is I helped start one of the first provisioning centers or dispensaries back then in 2008 here in Michigan, the CRI, the Cannabis Research Institute, rather, in Clio there. It was like what we all hope for now. We were the first people to try that shit. We ran it for almost a year and a half until Clio, where they had the cups at now, fucking ran us out. We ran a multi-phase like provisioning center. We had a doctor that came in twice a week. We had like a farmer's market in the back for caregivers to sell product and make it available to patients. We had a gym area for club members to work out in. We had like a area where you could just come in and after you bought your cannabis, you could hang out and like watch movies and play PlayStations and shit. We were in that for a year and a half before the city smacked us down there. So like I said, you know, I tried to push as hard as I could here in Michigan for legalization, and you know, like you said, you don't be afraid to get out there and do that shit because you're only going to push it along for the next guy. You might get smacked down in your efforts, but persistence is key. You know, you'll get him. You know, I'd like to think what we did there was pave the path for the other people that followed us not too long thereafter.
I never thought it would be legal in my lifetime.
Yeah.
You know, I spent 30 years more than that. You know, I mean, we didn't go legal until they didn't decriminalize until 2010. 2012, we finally went legal. But you know, it was medical at first, obviously, and we had to put, you know, it was the ballot wasn't done legislatively. The only place to do legislatively was Vermont, and then California, obviously. No, actually, California was on the ballot, wasn't it? It was voted in by the people, wasn't it?
1996. It was Prop 215.
Yeah, 215 at first. Yeah. I'm just talking about the recent one, you know.
Oh yeah, that was more recently, like 2018, I think.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, I started in '77 outdoors when I was 13 years old, and you know, that was the biggest worry. I mean, it was a worry. Every time you went out to go look at your plants when you were growing, you thought for sure there was somebody sitting behind that bush waiting, just friggin' crack your 15-year-old ass and throw it in jail because that's all they wanted to do over a friggin' flower. Look what Nixon did. Nixon had one of his top guys, one of the most conservative people at the time in the Nixon administration, go and study it in California, study cannabis. He came back with a report saying that it was a harmless plant, that people should be able to grow it in their backyard. And what did Nixon do? Nixon went and stuffed it. And this was from one of the most conservative guys that you could actually, I can't remember his name, you can look it up. And Nixon just buried it. He goes, we're not going forward with that. That's for sure. And he buried it, over a friggin' flower. What was his name? Salinger, the first guy put in it by J. Edgar Hoover in 1937, was put in charge of the first Narcotics Bureau. And they,
Harry Anslinger, yeah.
Anslinger, that's it. And what do? When he was told he was supposed to eradicate the plant, he crossed the Potomac River and looked both shores from end to end. As far as the eye could see, there was nothing but friggin' hemp plants growing in cannabis. And he goes, they want me to get rid of this thing? It's growing everywhere wild. And he's like, hey, they want me to do it, they want me to do it. And that was on the other side of the Potomac, only a couple miles away from the White House. It's all been bullshit. It's all been bullshit. I know friends of mine whose lives were ruined because go screw themselves, the government.
It's crazy in all of our lifetimes that we've sort of seen it go from like one of the hardest drugs you could go to jail for a super long time and have your life ruined over to like, oh, it's medical, it's a medicine. Like, and it is, I agree with that 100%. And now it's like, oh, it's recreational. You can smoke it just to have fun. And like, it's legalized and taxed. And, it's not only that, it's essential. Like it's so important that during a pandemic, people are still able to go out and get it in most states that it's available.
We wouldn't have the modern world that we have in modern society that we have without it. It built this world. It conquered countries. It fueled colonialism. It was hemp. Wouldn't be sailing the seven seas without it.
I urge people to stay on the medical side myself for multiple reasons, mainly because now that it's rec here in Michigan, if it's caught in your system, now you can be treated like it's an alcohol, basically, because it's a recreational drug. To where there was a brief time span here in Michigan when it was medical, you were covered under your medical card. If you got caught with it at work in your system, well, you had a card for that. You didn't have to divulge that at the time, but if you got caught with it in your system, you kind of had that ace in the hole, and you still had that ace in the hole. If you're still carrying a med card and you get into some trouble at work, and because cannabis stays in your system for such a long period of time, because of lack of good testing, you could get fired because of cannabis still being in your system. Just like they could easily say, well, it's in your system. You were intoxicated. You're done. You're intoxicated. You were using a recreational substance that alters you. So, that's room for termination right there. But if you're carrying your medical card again, it's in your system and it's a long-term effect, but you're covered under your medical laws. You know what I mean?
And
you have
at least here in California, it provides you a larger plant count, as well as you can carry like 1 ounce if you're recreational versus 8 ounce of flower. And the amount of concentrate you can carry is also larger. So I also advocate everyone, if you're in a medical state, I think it's worth it. Whatever it costs to invest in getting your card or doctor's recommendation, I think it's worth it, because if it comes down to your safety, you want to have that extra layer of legal protection and that peace of mind to know that at least there's a doctor who put their ass on the line. Because when it comes down to it, they're also going to get in trouble if you're not a legit medical case, if you go to like court with it. So you have somebody else who's going to be there fighting to say, look, this person actually needs it. Like, their license is on the line just as much as your ass is on the line for getting caught for doing something maybe not so legal.
I just thought of another reason to throw on top of there is if the medical numbers stay up and don't decline, I'm afraid if people don't stay medically legal, and them numbers decline, that research may decline medically into cannabis because of the lack of medical users. They may just be go, nobody's medical anymore. Whoop-de-doo, let's keep pushing it rec. But if the medical numbers stay up, hopefully the research medically will stay on point and not fall far behind because of the rec use.
What do they have for testing in Michigan for field sobriety? You know, like if you're saying that if you get pulled over, how do they test you?
They got a
Swab
bullshit
test.
They got a bullshit roadside test too that you can. You're basically supposed to deny taking because it's basically up to the officer's opinion of how you pass or fail. And if you submit to it and then they write down that you fail, then that is like legally binding, and where you're better off to not have it and make them prove that you're intoxicated in another way somehow or whatever. But yeah,
I was understood that you could lose your license if you refuse that fucking thing right then and there. And
no.
it's only certain counties that are actually doing testing, but that's what I was told.
I don't believe
I have
so.
lawyers in the family, and you said it, Smiley. Don't give them evidence, because that's what you're doing. You're giving them evidence potentially that they can use against you, even if it's alcohol. Don't give them they're going to take your license anyway, pretty much. Like 90%, 99% of the time, they're most likely going to take your license. So don't give them that.
And Eagle, you might be right for like a breathalyzer, but I believe like the physical, like jump on one leg, say the fucking alphabet and all that shit is like the
I'm pretty
bullshit.
sure it goes for any sobriety test if you refuse it. If it, yeah, pretty sure.
You can
I'm
you can say
willing to double
that
check
I
that as soon.
don't want to do it, like my hip is, I have a bad hip, so you can blood test me at the fucking if you want to take me down to the station for a DUI. But if you don't have any further evidence, like the whole thing that the Pop Brothers of Law push is just don't even engage them in a conversation that would get to that point. Like when they pull you over, you ask them, why did you pull me over? So then they don't get you into this big trap of like leading you down a bunch of questions that they're going to get you to answer in a way that makes them say, well, now we have suspicion to search your car. You ask them, why did you pull me over? And then if they ask you questions, you say, I'm not discussing my day. It's as simple as that. I'm not discussing my day. You're not legally bound to discuss your day with them. Even if they say, hey, this area is known for weed dealers, I think you might be coming in here to pick up some buds and it smells like flower. I'm going to search your car, or we're going to bring the dog out. At least here in California, smell is not probable cause. So even if it stank like flower, it's not probable cause. Don't give them the right to search your vehicle. And if they, you know, one of the important questions to ask is, am I being detained or am I free to go? And if you're detained, then you shut the fuck up. Say, I plead the fifth. I assert my Fifth Amendment right to not speak. And you give them absolutely nothing, because then when it goes to the court, all they have is a video of you getting pulled over saying those, 30 words. And they have no reason to have searched your car unless you have something in plain sight. There's a plain sight law where if they can see something in your car, then they can search it. But other than that, as long as you weren't doing some sort of crazy ass driving, like if they pulled you over for your tail light, or even if you were speeding, okay, I'll take my speeding ticket and I'll be on my way. If that's what you're being detained for, take the speeding ticket. But you don't have to get yourself in trouble and say, oh, I had a little bit, or oh, I've got my medical card. Don't try and fucking reason with them. Don't even bring it up.
Yeah, it's a civil violation. I got pulled over with a QP sit on the front seat once. I don't know if the guy could smell it or not. It wasn't some airtight Tupperware at the time. This was a few years, like 5, 6 years ago. And this was at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I must have stunk because I just came from the garden, dropped off my old partner, and was going home. And he said he pulled me over. I forget. Oh, you know why? Because I think I pulled down the street. That's what I did. I pulled down the side street on the way home. I had to pee so bad. I just pulled over, took a pee, and then got back in the car and was pulling down the road, and I was in a beat up old Jeep. He got me. He could see me from behind some bank, and I was kind of up on a hill by a new development, so he could kind of see he couldn't see what I did. He just saw that I pulled over. so they can come and see. He ends up pulling me about pull me over a half mile down the road. And I asked him why he pulled me over, and he goes, well, I saw you pull over up there. And I said, yeah, I have an electrical problem in my car. And then he said, well, what if I search your car? And I said, excuse me. I said, this is a civil violation, a moving violation in my car, if anything, which it's not. I'm completely legal. And he goes, well, what if I search your car? And I said, well, why would you search my car? I said, has a crime been committed? Have you accused me of committing a crime? Has somebody called in a crime and I fit a profile? And he stood there for about 5 minutes just staring at me, getting red. This is an older guy, probably. I shouldn't say older. He was younger than me, probably 40. And next thing I know, I had 2 other cruisers around me. Completely forgot that because I was legal. So I wasn't even thinking about the QP that was over on the floor on the passenger side. But he didn't search me. I told him I was right down the street. I said, he goes, well, there's been a rash of break-ins around this area or something like that. And I said, yeah, funny you say that. I said, 2 weeks ago, my house got broken into, and I'm only about a mile down the road. And he goes, oh, really? He goes, what's the address? And I gave him my address to my house. And he actually called it in. With such and such address broken into. And the cop got back, and they actually called my hometown, or the town I was living in, not my hometown. They called their police station to find out if I was telling them the truth. And as soon as he found out I was telling them the truth, he let me go. He had to. Didn't even write me a ticket. But, just to give you can stand your ground and tell them you're right. Period.
Well, that shows you the extent that they'll go to, though. If you say anything, if you make up a little lie and think, oh, they're not going to look into this, they will look into it. If you say, oh, I was just down the street getting a burger, well, if there's not a burger restaurant, they're going to say, what burger restaurant were you at? Oh, there's not a burger restaurant over there. So it happens to be you're coming from an apartment where they sell cannabis, marijuana. We're going to search your vehicle. Like, give them as little as possible. Like, not that you did anything wrong there, but like when they asked you that question, or when you said, oh, my house got broken into a mile away, you gave them a thing to go into and investigate. And they could even at that point, like, make the argument to say, oh, we need to search his car to see if he is lying or not. About, like, in not that particular example, because it was too specific, they brought it up and they were able to phone it in and verify there was a break-in, etc. But like, it could be the smallest little in. So that's why this group of attorneys actually made a script. So if you go to Pop Brothers at Law, they're California based, so this is only for people in California, but it does apply. It works in many states, I would say. Some states, unfortunately, though, smell is probable cause. I'm not sure which ones, though. I need to look into that more. Do you know if in your states is smell probable cause? I know in California it's not. I've heard in Michigan it's not.
It's not.
I'm in Massachusetts. No, it's not probable cause.
What about Rhode Island?
Rhode Island? Yeah, I do believe it is still probable cause. I'm not sure though, 100%, but I'm almost positive. I think that was one of the things that's brought up every once in a while with people. The difference between.
I heard my buddy who lives over there, Shane at the Cheap Home Grow, was talking about how like one of their like lead politicians was basically like married to one of the guys who's got like one of 2 big cannabis licenses. So they were trying to like basically fix it so they'd make all the money and not allow home grow and a whole bunch of other stuff like that.
Yeah, the little story about the governor that's in Rhode Island there, Gina Raimondo. She there's two retired state police officers that basically own, I think it's either 3 or 5 of the dispensaries, and they're really the only dispensaries that are down here. And they're the ones that created the monopoly. When other people a few years ago wanted to open up, they were like, no. They made a $5 million donation. Next thing you know, nobody else was getting any licenses, so they basically had the monopoly. Well, what happened too, on top of that was, all right, so Gina Romano gets elected, and she starts up with, and then the other thing too with the monopoly was you had a lot of people that came down here with deep pockets, and they started getting some big commercial grows going. The problem was that they were producing so much, but then those 2 state police, they could produce a huge amount themselves too with their grows. So they would put in orders with some of these people that were putting a lot of money into their freaking commercial grows indoors, and they would take an order of, I'll take 500 pounds from you at this price. Well, out of the 500 pounds, when it came time for you to go cash in with the order that they had put in with you, they'd be like, you know what? I ended up producing 300 of that 500 pounds. So we only want 200 pounds, and we're only going to give you this much for those. So they ended up putting almost every other commercial grower in the state out of business within a year and a half, 2 years. And then Gina Raimondo, about 3 or 4 years back, she started, when she first got elected and the laws went in that you could do a home grow, she goes, you had to pay it. She wanted a tax of $350 per plant. And it wasn't just a home grow, it was commercially too. But then wouldn't you know it, within the first year, she ends up going in. She's has a partnership, or she has whatever, her own commercial going now too with her husband. And next thing you know, she only wants $25 tax per plant now that she's got her thing going. Rhode Island's been always run by the mob, always has been, always will be. That's why you got Federal Hill, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Listen, my hometown is Boston, my home city, and North End is my backyard. North End in Charlestown. And growing up in high school, I went to high school in Boston, a private high school, and that's where I used to hang out. And I knew all the guys down there, and I still know a few of them. But it's always been run down here by them. Always has. Look at Buddy Sancy. He used to be the mayor. He went to jail for, he's the mayor of Providence. He went to jail during his term.
What do you guys think about?
Got reelected again.
What do you think about like George Soros and a few of these billionaires that are like kind of quietly investing several $1 million into getting cannabis legalized in some of these states?
What's funny is you say they put money into it, but in the same time, Soros tried to block it in Florida. The first time they voted on it, Soros put like $5 million in campaigns last minute to block it down there.
That's interesting because he's been pushing to legalize it pretty much everywhere else. So maybe it was he didn't like the policy or something. But I had
that was like yet. It was like, I don't know, about 7 years ago when Florida's first shot at trying to legalize it medically down there. He was largely responsible for putting money behind it to smack it down at the last second. Now, I also wanted to point out, Smiley, that we were both right. Cumorah law suggests that, at least in cannabis use, that you do deny it's worth the simple infraction, kind of like Charlie was saying. But then again, I looked in Michigan law, and they say if you refuse that OWI, that the first offense of refusing it is losing your driver's license for 1 year and up to 6 points on your driver's license. So I guess, you can fight it in the long run. You may, shoot it down there. But like you said, you're probably giving them evidence like Charlie. But you're definitely going to lose a driver's license temporarily until you go to court.
Well, don't give them a reason. Don't have red eyes. If your eyes get red when you smoke, then put in eye drops. And if your breath stinks, then fucking eat a cough drop. Gum is not strong enough. That's my one big piece of advice for a lot of cannabis users. You think that little piece of gum or that Tic Tac is covering up your bong hit, but it's fucking not. I think you need to go and get yourself something a lot stronger, like a cough drop or some sort of food, something that's going to really mask and cover the smell when you're talking, especially when somebody's standing right at your window and you're talking right into their face, breathing out onto them. They smell smoke on your breath that doesn't smell like cigarette. They're going to assume it's cannabis or some other drug. And then they're going to start questioning you a whole lot differently. So I've been pulled over several times and theoretically been pulled over while using cannabis, and never have they suspected it because I didn't give them any reason to, other than maybe the one time where I actually had it in the car and they smelled it and got beat the shit out of me and pulled me out of the car and illegally searched the car. But that's a different story.
I love the theoretically.